Going live once you are ready to go. हम ready हैं भाई.
हम रेडी हैं बट ठीक है, तब तक मैं अपनी प्रिडिक्शन बढ़ देता हूँ.
I think we are live.
Okay, we are live now, I believe. We have a... Hello?
Sorry, I was mute.
Yeah, so we are live now. So you can
Okay.
start with the gentle introduction.
Okay. Um,
Okay, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We would be live commentating for the ICPC Kanpur Regionals, which is happening right now on Courtals. Like the contest had started around 45 minutes ago, and as we one second. Let me just share the. Or Rabo, can you just share the contest scoreboard for me?
yeah. The contest link, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
The contest has started right now, and the contest has already started. And so far, like most of the teams have solved the cakewalk problem, but no one has solved any other problems yet. Probably, Weber, we can go through the cakewalk problem first, read its description, and ask our audience to solve it.
Sure. Yeah, just should we share our screen or something and show the
Yes,
problem?
Weber, it would be great if you can share the contest screen. Like,
All right.
and we can discuss about the first problem statement.
Sure.
I
So
will read the problem statement. Since Vaibhav, you haven't seen the problems yet, you
yeah,
can
I have.
try to say your ideas, like how would you solve it. So the first problem statement says, you have just landed at Kanpur airport, ready to rumble. You are now waiting to collect your check-in bag luggage at the Kanpur airport, but you have a problem. You forgot your bag, what your bag looks like. You even forgot to put identity marks on it, and you were busy training after all. All you remember is that it is shaped like a cuboid with dimension q cross r cross s, and which satisfies some relation. Length is between a and b, breadth is between c and d, and height is between e and f. After possibly rotating it, rotation is also allowed here. Given the dimensions of the bag right now, which have all cuboid shape, determine which ones among them could be yours. If there are no bags satisfying the conditions, say so as well. And sorry about your lost luggage. Note that you may have to rotate the bag first before checking the conditions. And then there are around 15,000 test cases and everything over here. Like joke on the problem statement is like Kanpur airport. I don't think it has a lot of flights over there. Just one or two flights. So like the problem set I did not know about the Kanpur airport. Yeah.
Yes.
And if we read the sample over here, like in the first test case, it says first and third sample satisfies these conditions, while the bag 2 does not satisfy. For bag one, we need a rotation to fit into to make it 23 cross 36 cross 65, and we can verify that it satisfies the given conditions. So, like, Vaibhav, how would you solve this problem?
So I guess this is just brute force. I mean, we'll just try all possible combinations of the dimensions. So here I think we'll have um, six different cases to try out um, for each of the bags. So I guess we have 15,000 test cases, and the sum of n in a single test file is 15 into 10 power 5. So I think that should be fine. Um, yeah, so that's about it. I wonder if there are other ways to solve it as well, though.
Yeah, like we will have to definitely try all the three combinations. The like one shortcut we can probably do is just try to normalize this. Like based on like length is the smallest, breadth is the second smallest, height is the third smallest.
Yeah,
But that may cut off by a factor of two or three something. But in the end, like there are just six possibilities to try out.
yeah, right.
And like and one fun fact about this problem is like this problem had a time limit of 12 seconds initially.
Okay.
Because the Python is C Python over here and it was taking forever. Then we found that we have a 3x multiplier for Python, and then we
Uh,
cut short time to 4 seconds so that the Python has time limit of 12 seconds. And
got it.
like one of the question I asked in the audience was like to predict the which team would be the first one to get an AC in the contest, and like none of those predictions were correct. Like Leaf Papad was the first team to get an AC, but I believe some. Let me just check. Someone predicted Lightlow as the team to get an first AC, but that was the closest over here. And let me just look at who predicted that one. Okay, an unrated user Kojiro predicted like unrated. No, it's like probably someone changed the username. Kojiro correctly predicted that Lightlow would be like not correct, but was closest to predict like who would be the first to get an AC on this contest.
Mhm.
And as we speak, like in the first 45 minutes, only one problem was solved. But as we speak, like two more problems were solved by three distinct people.
Yeah, let's see
Like
who
one of them
the
is Pelican polygon, and the other one is protected parenthesis.
right.
And what I see is like a lot of team tried protected parenthesis, but they did not got an AC on it.
Mhm. So Aryan, who's the favorite team uh, for this contest? Who are the top two or three teams according to you who might make it to the World Finals or rather Asia West Finals as well from this contest?
Like the top team, like IIT Kanpur won the online round, so they would be favorites over here. But what I know is like IIT Kanpur team is participating with only two team numbers right now
Oh,
instead
okay.
of three. And like and probably let me just look at the online round, like who all were the best teams. Like there is one team from IIT Kharagpur as well who would be participating probably for the first time for the ICPC, but he has represented India in IOI and won a silver medal over there.
Mhm.
So like that would be one team to look out for. And there is, I believe, IIT Indore or probably someone from where Anya is from. Like he went to the World Finals last time and also went to IOI for India.
Okay.
Like as I see from the online round, like IIT Kanpur was the first in online round, and then the second one was from IIT BHU on the spot, and the third one was Skillsu from IIT Delhi. So like they
Okay.
would be the ones we should look out for. Like there would be more definitely.
Yeah, interesting that the team from Jabalpur is leading right now with a very small time penalty difference. But I guess these are just the initial problems. So
Like this is the initial one because
yeah,
like I'm also collecting like from the problem setter like how many essays they think a particular problem will have.
Nice. Yeah, we can also try to invite problem authors to talk about their problems if they want to.
Yeah, like I will try to invite, and Subham Jain would also be joining us for around or 30 minutes. Like
Nice.
it would be too boring if we are the just ones talking over here. So yeah, like let me also go ahead and submit my predictions for the contest. Like we would at last verify like who gets the most accurate prediction. Like and of like it's difficult to predict like what should be the number of aces when I'm looking at the contest and I see like there is no activity even in the beginning of the contest.
Yeah, maybe you can just walk through your thought process about the difficulty levels according to you, starting from like top to bottom in the problem set.
So like if you ask me about my difficult like my predictions on the problem statement, like as expected, lost luggage was the easiest one, and like it's easier to predict from descending to order. Like generalized Coulter's conjugate will go unsolved. Like I
Mhm.
know it for sure, and like apart from that, like we like when I was solving the problems, like protected parenthesis, I found it like I expected it to be the second easiest problem.
Mhm.
And looking at the problem statement, a lot of teams are trying to get it, but only when I coded it, I realized like it's not as simple or greedy as it looks like.
Okay.
But probably protected parenthesis and palindromic polygon would be the next two easier problems. And after that, like pairwise perfect is an ad hoc problem where you have to come up with a construction. So it's a hit or miss problem, and it can go anywhere in that range. And apart from that, like slothful secretary is a slight standard problem. Like one who knows it would be able to get an instant AC on it, like although it requires coding, but that's how we are at it. And mod messages does require a non-trivial implementation using LC and everything over there. Like,
Mhm.
and if we, so, like that's what it is. And like end of evaluation is a mathematical problem. To solve it more, you will have to solve it on paper first, and once you are done with paper, like the code is a bit easier for this one. And it might be non-trivial to find out like all the details on the paper,
Mhm.
like which one is left, nothing. So like probably we can discuss the next problem right now.
Sure. Um, should we go with palindromic polygon?
Yeah, let's go with palindrome first.
Okay. Would you like to explain the problem statement?
Yeah, I will explain the problem statement. Then we will give audience some time, and then I would like to hear like how would you approach? How would you have approached this problem? So there are endpoints on a Cartesian plane. The height point has coordinate xi, yi, and a value vi. So and no two points are at same location, and like we are also given that none of the points share the same x coordinate or y coordinate as well. Like all the x coordinate and y coordinates are distinct as well. And we have to find any non-empty subset S of point such that convex hull of S has a positive area. Like positive area just means it's non-zero area, like not a positive negative based on clockwise or counterclockwise over here. There exists a point P lying on convexal boundary such that when you read the values of points from S that lie on the convexal boundary in clockwise order starting from P, the values form a palindromic sequence. So there are endpoints given to us. We have to select a subset of points such that when we find the convex hull of those points and write all the numbering on it like v1, like which is given to us, then there is some cyclic shift of that point which forms a palindrome.
Mhm.
So and like that we have to print -1 if it's not possible to find any such valid set. Otherwise, we should print the set of points which should be on polygon.
Okay. And okay, it can be any non-empty subset of the points, right?
Yeah, right. Like, how would you approach this problem?
I'm still thinking about it. Um, Give me some time.
Okay. Um, like anyone in the comment section who would like to give a shot at this problem?
Initially, I was just thinking that we can maybe just look for triangles, the positive area. If we can find some 3 points um, that either have the same value, or 2 points that have the same value and some other third point, then um, that should be sufficient.
And like, why do you think it's sufficient?
So because we just need any non-empty subset, right? So um, and we can't have only 2 points. So the smallest polygon that we can have is one with 3 points. But yeah, I'm not entirely sure yet. I have to think some more.
Okay, someone is saying bro is taking Webber's interview. So yeah, like we can try to prove it over here. Let's say like we have some answer as a subset. So it will also have a convex polygon to it. So it and if we look at it, like if we add some points to a convex polygon which is not on the convex hull, right?
Hmm.
Then it doesn't make sense. We can just remove it from the set.
Yeah.
So one observation over here can be like we only need to print convex hull as a subset. like
Mhm.
which has all the points in it.
Makes sense.
And after that, even if we look at, like, we cannot have 1 point, 2 point, as you correctly pointed out. And if we have at least 3 points, then, like, if let's say there are 4 points as well, we can just remove one of them.
Yeah.
If the palindrome is A B, then we can try to remove A from here as well. And one good property about triangle is the convex hull of triangle is convex hull as well. So,
Yeah, that
like,
makes sense.
that's so, like, although the sample prints 6 examples, like, it's always optimal to print try to find a triangle which is a palindrome. And to make triangle a palindrome, we can just try to find out 2 points with equal label, and third point label can be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that should work for this problem. And, like, once you came up with this observation, like, probably we can give audience some time to think about, like, how do they proceed further once they figured out that they should print a triangle. And probably we can even discuss the next problem as well,
Okay. One sec.
at least the problem statement.
Okay, I think we can go for it now.
Okay, for a minute I refreshed the preliminary board scoreboard, and at first I thought, like, wow, 4 teams got someone got 4 problems AC, but yeah, that's not the case. Like, if we look at the scoreboard right now, Logic Crushers from PDPM Institute of Information Technology Design and Manufacturing Jabalpur is first on the scoreboard with AC on 2 problems.
Mhm.
Second team right now is Leaf Papad from IIT Bombay with 2 ACs. Third team is right now CNS Lena Chahiye Tha from IIT Guwahati with 2 ACs. And after that, everyone just has 1 AC so far. And 3 distinct problems have been solved so far: lost luggage, palindromic partition, and protected parenthesis. We can even read about protected parenthesis ones.
All right. Um, so you have a string S of length n containing opening and closing parentheses. And while the string is not balanced, we can perform a swap operation. So we can basically take a close bracket, closing parenthesis, and swap it with any opening parenthesis that occurs after it. And once S becomes balanced, we cannot perform any more operations. So the question is, what is the maximum number of operations you can perform starting from S? I see. If you want to maximize the number of swaps given some string of parentheses, and the end state should be balanced. And the rules for balancing are the standard ones. So I don't think we need to explain those separately. And the
Yeah,
constraints
like
are,
this.
yeah, so we have 5v5 characters per test case, and per test file we have 10 power 6, uh, the upper bound on n. Okay.
Okay, like, as Ravi explained, the problem statement is, like, we can swap only the closing bracket, and no, we can swap anything over here, right? No, we can only swap a closing, like, a
Yeah.
closing bracket with a smaller index with a opening bracket which has a largest index.
Mhm.
Like, swapping the closing bracket doesn't change anything. Swapping those opening brackets doesn't change anything. So like whenever we make a swap operation, we try to make it more balanced over here. And like the ask is eventually we will reach a balanced string. And we can also go through samples once.
Sure. Um, so the first case is balanced, so we can't make any swaps here. The last one is also straightforward. You can only perform one swap, which is the first two parentheses.
Like first two parentheses would swap it, but we can make two swaps over here.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I think what you can do is maybe you can first swap the first two, and then you can swap the first and the second last ones.
Like if we swap the first to the string would be balanced. So
Oh, so we
what
can't
we
do
should
it.
do is so
So we
what we can
first
do
swap
is we
the
can
first
try
and
to swap fourth and fifth, like just
hmm.
wasting some operations, and then we
Oh,
can swap the first two.
okay, right. And what about the second one?
For the second one, we can first try to swap the second and third. It will not make it balance, and then like basically we would be able to perform three operations on this string, and only after we perform all three, the string will be balanced.
Hmm.
So there is no choice over here because this string is completely opposite of balanced one. Like we need closing brackets where there are open. I would be back in 2 minutes. Like someone is knocking on the door.
Sure.
Okay, I am back. And looks like few more team has solved two problems now. Josh is from IIT Varanasi and Easy Rated from IIT Delhi. And we also have fourth distinct solve over here. Pairwise perfect.
Nice. And but we so do we still have two solves? Um, okay. Maybe the scoreboard will refresh in a while. Interesting that um, teams are not trying F so much because I don't think. Yeah, basically I feel that maybe G is a harder problem than F. Selecting which which ones to swap. Maybe we'll need some more observations. We'll discuss the problem, but F definitely seems like relatively straightforward.
Okay. Like the issue with F is it's a geometry problem.
Yeah, yeah. I think sometimes people should just be a little
Like
open-minded
problem
about
is for solution one might not need a lot of geometry, but
Mm,
whenever I see geometry, like I have one easy solution to all geometry problems.
mm.
It skip the problem.
Yeah, I think usually for these problems, after some time, maybe teams will realize that it's actually kind of solvable. And once there are enough solves, then I think people will come to it.
So like Vaibhav, tell us something about yourself. Like what do you do generally and what are you doing? Like,
Um, I am a software engineer at Google currently. Um, yeah, I used to be an ICPC participant back until 2015. 2015-16 was the last time I participated, and once I graduated, I then started also contributing to problem setting for ICPC, and yeah, that's when I met Balaji, who started Code Drills, Praveen, who used to be the contest admin for a long time for ICPC, and everyone else, even Kevin. So I think Kevin had also started, contributing to ICPC quite a long time ago. Uh, yeah, I think our audience may not know about it, but Kevin has been a core contributor to Indian ICPC for a long, long time now. Um, I don't know, maybe it's been like what 8, 9 years, kind of like that, because I think he used to participate in long challenges quite a bit. So yeah,
oh wow.
basically, I did some ICPC back in college and then some problem setting, but yeah, at work I've mostly been working on dev tools. So I kind of started my career working on static analysis of programs, um, which was a new area for me, but it was interesting because um, it involved understanding code, using code. So yeah, that was fun. Basically, stuff like finding bugs in code automatically. These days, you have LLMs, which are kind of getting popular, but back in the day when the machine learning was not that, you know, um, general and that strong, people relied on other more algorithmic techniques to find out bugs in code. So yeah, that was kind of the space that I worked in.
Okay, so like earlier you were mostly working on the problem statement where you were algorithmically trying to find bugs in the code. Right?
Yeah, so you can sort of model the side effects of every statement written in code. You can parse, let's say, a code repository, and then try to reason about what every statement does essentially, and maintain the side effects in various kind of data structures, and then try to reason about code. So let's say you want to find something like a null D reference, then you would have to reason about um, when are objects allocated and which ones get deallocated after a particular statement. What is the order in which statements are getting executed and so on. So yeah, we basically
Okay, that's a lot interesting.
yeah.
So like
So
it's a lot interesting. And recently I found that you are joining DeepMind from the next month onwards. Right? So like tell us something your experience about moving from software as a software developer to on the core machine learning side.
I think the skill set required is very different between what you do as a C versus what you do like more on the researchy sides. I feel that as a software engineer, even at Google, the goal always was to, bring some new feature to customers or improve the experience on existing features for customers. But towards the ML side, it's a lot more, fundamental research. You want to try some new things out and take some risks because let's say you want to push the boundaries in some area, then you want to come up with some original ideas based on your own intuition and see if they work. So it's also problem solving, but of a different kind. You need some good intuition about you know what kind of architecture works, what kind of data is suited for a particular kind of problem, and so on. So yeah, that was an interesting shift, but I mean, it's not always pleasant because you keep hitting roadblocks. You always, see a lot of failures along the way. But yeah, I think uh, it's fun. Nevertheless, it's always great to see some success uh, when your model performs well, and yeah, I think that's very rewarding, which is why I'm trying to continue in this area for some more time.
No, that's great. Like from the chat, if anyone wants to ask anything to Webber, they can do it right now. You may not get hold of Webber AMA next time. And looks like there are a few more aces in the contest, but no one has solved three problems yet. And it's around 80 minutes into the contest so far. The new aces we have got is like Can't Try Hard from Bits Pilani. They got an AC on Pairwise Perfect again. And then there is one team AMA from Punjab Engineering College, Chandigarh. They got an AC on the palindromic polygon. Then Light Low, I believe, also got a second AC right now on palindromic polygon. Skill Issue got an AC on protected parenthesis. And Is It Rated from IT Delhi also got an AC on Pairwise Perfect. So we have four problems solved so far, around 80 minutes into the contest.
Mhm.
And like no one has solved three problems yet. So looks like we have an influence of Kevin. Like one thing which I have seen about working with Kevin is like you give him any problem, he will increase its difficulty level by at least one. So like
Yeah, for sure. I remember I once had some easy, medium kind of problem idea, but it wasn't that interesting. I mean, it was somewhat boring, I think. And yeah, I mean, he managed to convert it to the hardest problem of the set. And I remember no one could solve it in the contest. So yeah, over time we have gotten used to it,
Mhm.
and it's good in a way. I mean, I've gotten to learn a lot in that experience as well.
So like I think we should have created more easier problems that would have brought some activities in the commentary because there would have been some activity on the scoreboard and we would have just relayed the same while commentating.
Yeah, maybe next
Like
contest.
the problem is we don't have access to participant screens either. Otherwise, we would have looked at there and try to figure out like what different participants are doing.
We can actually maybe show them some wrong answer submissions if they are okay with that.
Yeah,
Uh,
like right, I can do that. I can try to look at
like
all the
maybe
submission over here, trying to figure out like which like what all wrong answers. Like we can also look at the wrong answers using the scoreboard as well. Like
yeah, I would
there are
like to
penalties
see
used into it.
the WA that is it rated has on palindromic polygon because they have solved pairwise perfect already.
Okay,
So
like can you say like which team do you want to look at? Like I can try to fetch their submission and see what they are doing.
yeah, so
Or
the
I
team
can
name
share the submission link.
is it rated and the
Okay,
problem
let
is
me just look
palindromic.
at. Okay, palindromic polygon is iterated. Give me a minute.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Is
if they
iterated.
manage to get an AC on that quickly, they'll be first on the leaderboard, given that they've already solved pairwise perfect. I can share it.
Palindromic polygon.
Yeah, I'm sharing it right now.
Okay. And just give me a minute. I will fetch the submission link. You can open it directly. Okay, looking at it, they are checking if given 3 points, are they collinear? Like that's what their calc function is doing.
Hmm.
Like it's perfectly intended. Like they have an observation that they should look out for triangles. So they are always picking 3 points. And can you also paste the submission? Okay, you already pasted the submission. And digging deeper on this one, let's see what more they are doing. Like they are creating a map and everything. First, okay, V1. What is V1?
So V is a mapping from whatever value to all to coordinate. So a list of all points with the same value, and
So what they
uh,
are doing is they are first creating. Okay, they are first creating like a hash map kind of thing where
uh,
like for example they have 3 points of type with value 2, then they are putting all of them together, and what they are trying to do is like they are just checking if the first, like let's say a particular color 5 has 10 points, then what they are checking is does the first point, second point, and the fifth point are collinear. If they are not, print it and return. Like it
mm,
perfectly makes sense to do it. The idea is they are just picking all the 3 points of same color, and if all the points of a particular color are not collinear, then they would get away with it. So this one looks good. And the only issue what they are other doing is they are also maintaining like the trying to find out the other place where the palindrome is of form A B A. Like 2 points are from the same side and third point is different one.
mm, okay.
Okay, and the potential issue I see over here is in their code. Like the idea is perfectly fine and it should work.
Mm,
The place where I'm not comfortable is only checking for K. Like what they can do is they can just try to pick at all the, like they can sample 1 point from each type
mhm.
and then do the same thing again. So like first part is good. Second part there is issue from 38 to 51. They can do something smartly over there.
Yeah. Um,
And if
is
we
this
look
part?
at their, no, like
Oh,
what I see is like once you hit k equal to -1 line, you have an observation that all the points of a particular color lie on the same line segment.
right.
Because first you are trying to pick 3 points of same color or type which are not collinear. So instead of just checking from 31 to 50 with only one type of point, which is k, they can try to pick one color, 1 point from each color, and run it for let's say just two different lines or something. Or other way around, since you have made an observation that all the 3 points are collinear, you can try to find the slope of a line and pick two colors which have different slopes.
Yeah, that should work. Yeah, I hope they can quickly find
Like,
a counter
just
which.
second for k equal to 0 and 1 is not the way for it. If, if they just check probably three different points instead of only k1, I think that might also work. Not really sure.
Hmm.
Like like one of the solution we debugged here was like trying to iterating on all the points again and all the colors I have for this one. That should have given them a TLE on the last test case. That's
Hmm.
what they are trying to optimize.
Okay.
Okay, we have got someone with three ACs. It's light low from Bits Pilani.
Okay, nice. And
They
they
have
have.
just got an AC unprotected parenthesis.
Okay.
So the first team to get three aces is Light Low from Bits Pilani Hyderabad campus. Bits Pilani campus, not Hyderabad.
Hmm. Is it rated also now has WAs on protected parenthesization?
Like what?
Is it rated has two different problems on which they have WA? So
Oh,
yeah, they'll have to
we can
prioritize.
live there. And Blitz Gising contest seems hard. Yeah, like that's the problem you have because problems look easy always. So like our initial estimate of difficulty seems it's different. But one more thing we can do is we can look at the problem which Blistake create, blog which Blistake create, like where every team shared like some fun fact about them, what is their preference in the problem set. We can
Mhm.
just walk over through and see like where all the prediction was correct or like do they have something of their preference or not.
Sure.
My question would be then, what do you want us to prepare for the contest? Like, only ad hoc is not something which I want over here.
Yeah, maybe we should try it out sometime. Only ad hoc problems.
Looks like AHY programmers which has been granted by Santa. It says all 3500 rated problem with two 1400. Instead of making it two, Santa even made it was just one 1400 rated problem. Looking at the problem. Tire 69420 is from IIT Lucknow says three problem please. There are three problems over here with the combined effect of mathematical solutions over there. Like there is one tree problem,
Mhm.
I believe. Yes, there is only one. Then SMS team, like they have no rivals, and it says no geometry again. Then we have Kilobyte Me, which says DP entries, and their rivals is geometry problem. And like let's look at how many geometry problems we have today.
Mhm.
So like end of evolution is mathematics mostly, and a tree flavor to it to make it a bit difficult. Although it does not increase as much difficulty. Generalized Coltars conjugate is complete mathematical. Loss luggage is easier. Mod messages is a tree problem. Purely tree problem. Some data structure, something on the top of it. Nothing else. Pairwise perfect is add-up. Palindromic polygon is geometry. And pairwise perfect is also geometry. So two geometry, one or we can probably call one problem as a tree problem. Then protected parenthesis is none of them. Slothful secretary is a graph problem. And swelly sort is and of evolution also involves something on the tree. But I won't call it a tree problem. So two geometry problems, and looking at the problem set, it looks like they would be among the first five problems. And then we have one tree problem, one graph problem, and one mathematics problem, something like that. So like whoever said no geometry, like looks like the major takeaway is geometry and mathematics.
Yeah, hopefully they can solve the
Then
second problem at least.
then we have take a bite from Jadavpur University. It says non-positive number of consecutive and geometry problem. Non-positive means they essentially says -1 or zero problem as consecutive geometry. And they have also mentioned IRTC as their rivals. And
Hmm.
I believe it's coming from the fact that regionals were postponed multiple times. So teams have to cancel their tickets and book again. At least, unlike World Finals, which has been postponed and it costed the team a lot, at least I believe the amount would be minor compared to the World Final flight tickets, which a lot of teams have ended up wasting. But anyways, it's not a good experience to be with. And there is a team from dead people from PMIRT, our college, and they says everyone who solves 800 more who can solve 800 rated problem is uh, their rival, and their preference is completely opposite of the other 135 rated problem, and every other problem should be 800. So they want everyone to get an AC on almost everything. And like this team has not even mentioned their name, but they are saying like that one of the teammate doesn't even have a code for account, and someone is suggesting Bhagwan Bharosa as their team name. Like then we have is it rated? What like let's see like what's their current status on scoreboard right now? Okay, is it rated has solved three problems right now. Pairwise
Oh, nice.
perfect. They have got an Asian palindromic polygon. Like they were really close to it. Like can you see their submission right away? Like what are they
Yeah, I
doing?
just see it. Yeah, I'll just diff it quickly.
This is their correct submission. And this one was the very recent from answer they got. Looks like they just changed two lines for I equal to 1 to n plus. Okay. Okay. The only issue they had was they were not looking at the points with index 0.
Right. Yeah, that's what I thought was weird on line 22. I don't know
Like
why.
let me just check the problem statement once. Like I believe like that should have got an issue.
Hmm.
Okay, palindrome 1 second. Which was palindromic polygon. Okay, the constraint says n lies between 1 to n, and it says n 0 to n plus 1. Like what is like 0 is fine. Like not using 0 should have worked fine.
Yeah, but you
One
have
second.
values until n, right? So I
Yeah, like
think
that's what I will check next. Like what does their for n template means? 0 was fine, but I believe 1 for n. Yeah, it's I less than b. So they were not checking the place where vi is n. And
right.
that was the only issue there. Just that and it got an issue on them. Okay, like someone is asking, is the difficulty for this contest similar to D1 CF? Like intended it was D1 plus D2 combined, but it looks like it's a D1 now with one lead code problem. And like someone are expecting like they hope the other reasons would be easier. And like then they are asking us what is our prediction for the maximum number of solves, like highest number of solves we will have. Like our prediction
Hmm.
is like the team with the first rank would solve 7 problems. But let's see what happens. Like, okay, Hari Sam Sharma is saying classical villas on the fall leaf blunder. Like, Hari Sam Sharma, I believe, was his teammate, like some from Viraj who is in right team, is it at a team right now?
Okay.
So like he knows inside out of Viraj, like what problems, like what mistakes they make. So like,
Yeah. But
and
it's good
then
that, I mean, they have it correct, but I hope the time penalties don't hurt them too much eventually.
yes, and someone is asking like where are the faceless men on the scoreboard?
Faceless Men is the team that is participating with two members, right?
Yes, they are at number 33 right now with only one AC so far,
Oh, they are
and they
trying
are
to solve
trying A
the
right now.
problem. Oh, wow.
Like
That's
I am more interested in looking at their submission for it. Like I know like last year they solved one of the problem with tree election was the name. You
hmm,
were expecting it to be an easy problem, like should have at least 4 to 5 AC, but they were the only teams to solve it. And then we used the same problem set for the Universal Cup. Like only 4 or 5 teams solved it, while we were expecting it to be get a solved by 20 to 25 teams. So
okay.
like our initial estimate for that problem was it would be around 23 2400 based on code forces difficulty level. But in the end, it turned out like their difficulty would be its difficulty to be around 3300 3400 on code forces.
Hmm,
So like they do have a potential to solve the hardest problem early. And like solving the hardest problem early has an additional advantage to deflect other teams to solve that problem as well.
hmm,
I remember like when I was participating in ICPC, we had 3 different teams who were targeting for the world finals.
hmm,
And like one of the team, what did was like they went ahead, they solved the second hardest or third hardest of the problems at within 2 hours, and everyone in the problem set was just trying that problem later on. And because no one was able to solve it, they ended up being second in the regionals and qualifying for the world finals. And like it's something IIT Kanpur has been doing for a long time. Like I remember yes, Sandani and Siddhartha when they were participating as Faceless Man 2.0. They are, right now we are Faceless Man 3.1. What they did was they went ahead and solved the hardest problem of the contest, which was graph with some max flows within the first 30 minutes. And that problem did not got any AC in last 4 hours 30 minutes.
wow.
So it's not something new which Faceless Men are trying to do.
Nice.
And like
That's
I would go ahead and look at
very
like
interesting.
Faceless Man's mission for end of evolution. Okay, like I saw a scene. They are taking vector as an input.
Hmm,
Like they are maintaining depth. This is correct. Like since we want exact D depth for the original tree, if the given tree has depth more than z, then we should just print 0 for it. And they are taking inverts with probability. This looks fine. Not really sure what they are trying to do over here. Like prop 0 is 1, I minus b, prop 1 is This part doesn't look good to me. Like they need something better for this get p over here, if my assumption is correct. Okay, the idea prima facie looks good, apart from this function over here. And finding the correct value for this function would be the hardest part of this problem set. Everything
Mm.
else is pretty standard. So what they are trying to do is get p as a probability, like the tree has height at max v over here.
Okay.
And in the end, what you have to do is you have to find the probability that there is at max g and probability that the height is at max g minus 1, a difference of them and 20. But the assumption that probability repeats p0, p1, p2 repeats is not correct, I believe.
I see.
But like what they have noticed correctly is like it's like pi minus 1 multiplied by p inverse and everything over here. So like had it been our constraints were of sort like g less than n, and had they run the loop until n for over here, they would have got an AC on this problem. But g is up to 1 in 9 over here, and just like the value of like they are just assuming that if the probability for height 10 is equal to probability that height is at max 12 is not correct. And if we look at it, it's not correct as well. Right? The probability of tree with height at max 10 is not equal to probability of tree with height at max 12.
Mm.
But the next thing we have to notice over here is like it will form an AP or something like that. GPU, and they can get a formula for that.
Mm.
So like they are close, but not too close. Okay, someone is asking me the blog. So is it rated like I believe WA2AC 2001 is Viraj? No,
Mm.
it's Aryaman Das.
By the way,
Yeah,
someone is
Jaggu
asking
Bandhan.
why is Faceless Man participating with only two members?
Like what I heard was one of the member went to some surgery. Like I haven't asked the details of that yet. Okay, like we have got few more. Like Josh is from IIT Varanasi has solved three problems right now. The
Nice.
most recent AC they have got is on palindromic polygon.
Mm.
And is it rated like first top three teams are Josh's from IIT Varanasi right now from BITS Pilani campus. Is it rated from IIT Delhi? And there are 23 teams with two ACs. Okay, Faceless Man has also got one more AC over here
Pairwise
on
perfect.
Pairwise Perfect. And they are also trying to get an AC on Protected Parents as well. I believe they will get an AC on this one faster and should be the next team. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they should get to four um, quickly.
No, like this will take some more time.
I mean, palindromic polygon is also left, right?
Yeah, right. These two are left and they would be able to get it.
Cool. Yeah, looks like we have a tough contest in front of us today. So,
Okay, like someone is asking, can you please give link to that blog? I believe I posted it on chat, but I'm not really sure if that comment was withheld by YouTube because of a link or something else. Okay, Subham is with us. Okay.
hi, Shubha.
Hey, hi Subham. Looks like on the door. I would be back.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Hey, hi. Yeah, I've been following a little bit of what you've been saying, but I haven't looked at any of the problems. How?
I can give you some brief overview of what the problem set looks like. Let me just quickly share my screen. Um, yeah, it looks like we have a difficult contest in front of us today.
Uh-huh.
Uh, so yeah, we have like 9 problems in the set today, and we have four distinct problems solved already. So
Like
uh,
looks like Shubham Jain just left, so he might join us later.
Oh, I joined another by another email, but anyway.
okay,
Yeah. So how long has it been since the start of the contest? Did it start at 9:50?
it's been a couple of hours
It
now.
started at 10.
Yeah,
At 10. I see. So 1 hour 50 minutes in, we have four problems solved and five to go.
right. And F is supposed to be a relatively easy problem, but we only have 16 solved so far. But it's a geometry problem, so I think people are staying away from it a little bit. And the next easiest, I think, is protracted parenthesization, which has 10 solves so far. So I think we'll see some more here. And we have only one team, Faceless Men, that is trying End of Evolution, which is supposed to be a hard problem, I guess. Uh, they are the only ones who are trying to solve A, but yeah, they are not very close, I think. Um, they still need to work on their solution.
I see. What is the distribution of the topics that have been solved so far?
Um, C is just brute force or ad hoc. Uh, F is geometry. G, I believe, is also ad hoc. Is that right, Arya?
G, which one? Like
Protracted
it's
parenthesization.
more of ad hoc, or probably like a DP, or
Hmm.
probably we can say like prefix suffix and something like that. If you want to give a tag, we can give it a DP. That's not required, but yeah.
All right. And pairwise perfect is also geometry, I guess. It's constructive and
No,
geometry.
pairwise perfect is ad hoc, not geometry
Oh,
at all. Also, it requires printing points,
all right.
but it's constructive hit or miss type of problem.
Oh wow. Teams became a lot better at geometry since I participated.
No, like teams
Um,
did not become better at geometry. Is the reason why only 16 people have solved it.
um, yeah, this is the kind of problems I would probably give to my teammates to solve. So I guess the problems that are left are probably more math and number theory or something. The collapse conjecture seems interesting.
Yeah. Would you like to, Aryan, would you like to go to the problem statement maybe?
Like the problem statement is really nice, and like it's one of my favorite problem statement. Give me a minute. Let me open it once. Generalized collage conjugate. You are a bright-eyed young undergraduate who has watched a YouTube video about. No, you are a bright-eyed young undergraduate who has done extensive research into collage conjugate and has been struck with the inspiration for several brilliant ideas of how to solve it. You can picture it now for your undergraduate thesis. You will solve the collage conjugate, cementing your name in the textbook as a genius on the level of Van Neumann, Terry Tau, Ramanujan. Your thesis advisor thinks this is a bad idea. They warn you that many others before you have tried and failed taking this path. But they just don't get it. That's them and you are you. This is different, you are special. Due to your persistence, your thesis advisor reluctantly agrees to support you, but on the condition that you prove yourself by solving this problem featuring an even more difficult and generalized version of the setup in collage conjugate. You are given a set m of distinct integers and an integer n. Your goal is to transform n into 1 using only operations of following two kinds. Choose an m in m and replace n with m cross n plus 1. Or choose a prime factor p of n and replace it with by n by p. And what is the minimum number of operations needed to transform n into 1? If it is impossible to transform n to 1, say so as well. And like, can you move on to the output section now? Like, it's interesting. Input format gives us the n we want to convert to 1 and the set of m. And the output section says for each test case, output one line containing either a single integer denoting the minimum number of operations needed to transform n to 1, or print string fields medal if it is impossible to transform n to 1. So, any comments, Subham? Like, you have been
Um,
you were
yeah, I think
going
this is
for IMO, right?
way back, but I'm kind of old and not as good now. But I think it's pretty interesting because I've seen similar problems for the Goldbach conjecture and Collat's conjecture. I don't remember the names very well, but I think there were problems just like this, but with the Collat's conjecture way back, and you're supposed to print the path to get to one. And it's interesting because this is generalized. The point here is that obviously you're not going to win the Fields medal, but or at least not in the actual Collat's conjecture. You're not going to win the Fields medal. But since n is small, you can. So we have computers that have proved that for small enough n, you can always find a path to one, which is why this problem is still open. And so you really have to use the fact that you have a small n somehow. You can't come up with a general algorithm for any n. I guess that's the point I was trying to make. So what's happening
So,
here,
like,
I think,
what do you
is
think? Like, do you
right.
think anyone will get a field medal in this problem? Like,
Um,
for our generalized version.
that can't happen because you can just choose the constants in the Collat's conjecture and simply must be a solution, right? I think it was 3 and 2. So you can just choose. I guess you're given a set M. So maybe if M doesn't contain three, right? So if M contains three,
Like,
obviously nobody's getting a fields medal. Um, what happens if M doesn't contain three? Let's say. So what is the constraint on M? There can be up to 8 numbers. M is from 1 to 64. Hmm. You're making things not divisible by M every time. I see. And then you're making things smaller using some primes. I guess it isn't super obvious to me just by staring at the problem statement. Maybe we should look at the sample inputs and think about it from there. That might make it easier to reason about things.
Mhm.
So it seems like in the sample input, oh, what is the output by the way? Oh, the minimum number of operations. That's interesting because that's much more constraining than I guess the total number of operations or like just give any path. And so this problem must be easier than I thought in some sense. Um, I don't know if I'm explaining it intuitively. But if a problem asks me for a path to an answer, that problems feel harder to me than finding the minimum path. Because in some sense you can enumerate it tells you that you can enumerate all the paths and then find the minimum. So that's kind of a hint to the hardness of the problem, I guess. Um,
okay, so one thing you have missed out over here is we can pick any prime to divide it, not just to as in Collat's conjugate.
right, yeah, you can pick any prime. I feel like this is some kind of
So,
hmm, this is some kind
so
of just
do you
n is
think?
pretty small. You should be storing some DP. with the minimum number of operations needed and some parent array. And the question is, how do you do the updates in a reasonably
So
fast way?
like let's so the answer is even if the given set is empty, you will never get a fields medal in this version because you
Oh, I
can
see,
always
I
choose the
see.
prime
Because you can
factor of
just choose
n
prime
and
factors
divide
and then
keep
go
it
down. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Um, but I guess
so
you can still get there faster
congratulations,
by.
Kum, you are not the first person to try a fields medal on this problem. We had a
But I
tester
guess,
as well who was thinking when they can get a fields medal over here.
the point is that like you still have to go through this DP approach because the operation one might lead you to a smaller kind of path. Um, so for
Right.
example, if you have a number that isn't a prime and it has a bunch of prime factors, then just by dividing prime factors, you might take a lot of steps. But by doing operation one, you might get to a prime in one step and then get to one in two steps.
Like let's
So,
let's say 2 to the power 20, right? It's in the given constant. If you keep dividing it by
right,
2, you will need 20 operation. But if you
right,
multiply it by 3 plus 1, then you can get something different.
right. So there's at most 20 operations. I agree with that. Interesting.
So since I did try something on this problem while testing, what I know is under the given constant, the answer will never be more than 6.
Hmm.
And one
That's true.
possible solution for it, since it's the hardest problem, one possible solution to do is BFS kind of thing, which tries to start from and keep trying to find all operations. And in the
Yeah.
given time limit, you would be able to try everything until a depth 4.
Hmm.
You can hardcode all the possible sets and all the possible numbers which have answer 5.
Right.
If you are able to run everything locally, and then you can try it. Otherwise, just assume that the answer is 6.
Right. I guess, yeah. Also, the time limit is 12 seconds, which is substantially larger than most ICPC problems, which also kind of points to the fact that you should maybe it's a hint to teams. And these are things you should kind
Like
of start noticing.
when I coded this problem, like I was trying everything until the depth 5, otherwise printing answer 6, and my solution took around 25 to 30 seconds to print an answer for it.
Mhm.
And like
Right.
after that, I tried a lot of things on this one, but I was never able to squeeze it in less than 12 seconds.
I guess the point is that the 12 seconds is not meant to be, it isn't meant to tell you exactly how fast your solution should run, but the fact that it's much larger than other problems should give you a hint that you can try things that are more naive in some sense, and they might just
Like
pass.
in our initial problem set, in our initial one fun fact, in our initial problem set, the easiest problem also had 12-second time
Oh wow,
before
okay.
we reduce it
Never
to
mind
4.
then.
And the reason for that was Python is C Python over here, and it was taking forever.
I see,
And
I
then we
see,
found that Python has a multiplier of 3x, so we
Mhm.
just changed it to 4. Like one thing which
I see.
we might have tried over here is like if there are some built-in libraries in Python which can print prime factorization fast. And at the benefit of like Python has 30-second time limit, can someone try to do that?
Hmm.
And by the way, we have some updates on the scoreboard. Is it rated from IIT Delhi has solved 4 problems now. The latest one they have got an AC on is protected parenthesis.
So they've solved all the problems that have been solved, right?
Yes.
No, like 5 distinct problems were solved, right? Not
Oh,
the 4.
five have been solved, I
Or
see.
five have been solved.
Which
Uh,
is the fifth one? Oh yeah, five have been.
Like let
Okay.
me see one.
So four have been solved. Pairwise perfect is the one with the least submission.
Okay, only 4 distinct problems have been solved, and
yeah,
IIT Delhi has solved all 4 of them. So like they will
right.
have
So
to
now
figure
they
out
have
which
that
one to
unique
solve.
opportunity. They have the unique opportunity to kind of like mislead people on the scoreboard.
Declare Right.
I have an interesting story about this because back in 2019 in Amritapuri, I remember it was the same situation for us where I think three teams, like my team and two other teams, had 8 problems solved, and the scoreboard froze then. So, and there were 13 problems that year, a lot more than, now. So we had 4 problems to choose from, and each of the teams chose slightly different problems, I think. So two of us chose the same one, and one of us chose a different one. Um, and in the end, it turned out that the problem that we chose was supposed to be really the fifth hardest problem or something, like the fifth easiest problem in the set, sorry. And it turned out to be really easy, and we won the regional because of this. So yeah, I think at the tail end, it really becomes about it. The contest really becomes about identifying easy problems. Um,
Like I remember participating in that contest, and if I recall correctly, we didn't even bother to read that problem because no one solved it in first 4 hours.
the funny thing was in the mirror contest, it was actually the fifth most solved problem, and we solved it ninth, and no other team knew that it was an easy problem, so we really benefited from that. We also did this kind of misdirection that I think you and Webber were talking about before by mistake, because there was this geometry problem that was supposed to be really annoying to implement, and we came up with some random heuristic in the first hour of the contest, and we got it to pass. So all the teams thought there was something really easy there, and they spent a lot of time trying that problem until I think the second. So after us, the second solve was after 3 hours in, and yeah, that also probably helped slow the other teams down because when some
Like,
teams solve the problem really quickly, you get some solution and then you discard it because you think it's too hard. There must be an easier solution because the team solved it quickly. So scoreboard reading becomes an important skill, but it really works against you when I guess a team does something like that.
yeah, like I haven't done anything like this, but I remember in one of the reasons what we did was something using Dilwart theorem. It was expected people will find independent set and something a geometry flavor on the top of it. But our template had a code which found with very good probability the maximum independent set when n is really
Oh
small.
yeah,
So we just coded it up and got an AC on it.
I
So
remember
this
this
bliss rate
problem.
is saying like,
This was a problem on the Dilworth theorem, I think, right? Uh,
like like I don't even till today I don't know how to solve that problem, and I never read it again. So like
Which high
someone in
school
the
was?
chat saying it was Amritapuri Regional, the one before COVID.
Okay.
Bliss Streak is saying last year I fake submitted a problem in Kanpur at 3:59, but nobody fell for it. Like people fell for it when you really saw it. Like fakes or people do ignore it. So like we also did something like that. Like try to make some submissions on the 6 ages problem in the world finals when we were done with five, just to give some teams think that we have solved a lot more. So like, Subham, have you read all the problems or like what's the
I
setup?
have only read a couple of problems so far. By the way, I wanted to ask for myself as well as people who are maybe following this for the first time. So the winner of this contest, do they qualify to Kazakhstan World Finals, or do
Yes,
they
the
go to the
winner
Asia West?
qualifies to like the winner qualifies for the world finals and everyone else will go to ACLS.
Yeah.
And winner can
I
also
see.
participate in ACLS, but their world finals is guaranteed.
And the winner. So the winner qualifies for the 2024 ICPC World Finals, which is in Kazakhstan, right?
It can be the case that there are 3 world finals in Kazakhstan if
Oh,
the two
I
opposing
really
teams
hope
are
that doesn't happen, but yes. So barring
because
anything,
we were initially discussing a lot of team has to cancel the Egypt World Finals ticket because it was postponed. Subham Jain is one of those guys impacted
I
due to
see.
it.
I'm still trying to get reimbursement, so I don't want to claim a loss just yet. But
Good luck.
yeah, yeah, maybe I'll see you in Kazakhstan if that happens. But anyway, so the best team, I guess the team that wins here qualifies to Kazakhstan, which is pretty good because it's nice to qualify early. Plus, winning a contest is always a great experience. Right. Let's see what other problems are there. So I guess for B, the main idea that teams need is do things locally based on what Aryan said, and then hardcode things and submit them, which I guess has become a more common trick in recent times. Let's see, what else have teams not
B,
tried? Let's
what
look at
teams
D.
should for B, what teams should do is just forget that it exists in the set and try to solve the problem.
I see. So which one, according to you, should teams try next? From D, H, and I.
Okay, like if I had to give something for easy rated, like what should be the one they should try next, then
Yep.
I would say like the teams should go for slothful secretary or mod messages. Like
Yeah.
slothful secretary would be easier to code if you have figured out all the details. And I am the author of this problem, and I believe it's a standard problem.
You believe it's a what?
Standard problem. Like probably
I
Subham, let's
see. I
see if
see.
you can solve it.
Oh, I should have prepared for this, but let's see. So a school has n classrooms labeled 1 to n. Each pair of rooms is exactly one corridor directly connecting them, but for ease of traffic, these corridors are one way. So what this line is telling us is that there is some graph, and this graph is directed because it's one way. So you can only take the edge in one direction. I don't know what the rest of the problem says, but I'm just going to think out loud as I read it.
Alright.
And each pair of rooms has exactly one corridor, which means that this is like a complete graph, but it's directed. So there are n choose 2 edges, and each of them have directions in one. Each of them have like one direction. The school secretary has to deliver a memo to the class president of each classroom. He has a brilliant idea that helps him avoid work. He can give multiple memos to some class president and then task that class president with doing the delivery for him. Okay. A class president can deliver a memo to some other classroom if they can walk through the corridors to reach that other classroom and then walk through the corridors to return to their original classroom. I see. Um, so what's as long as it's possible to return to their original classroom when all is done. So what's happening is let's first think about the fact. Let's think about when it's not when this is not possible. So suppose there is a graph of 4 nodes. Two nodes are completely connected. Two nodes are completely connected, and all edges from the first set are directed towards the second set. In that situation, a secretary from the first group cannot go to a classroom in the second group and come back. So there are some cases in which, you know, all the edges are in a single direction. This feels, don't remember what it's called anymore. I'm so old in CPUs, but is it a tournament graph? Let's read the rest of the problem first. A set of class presidents is called complete. The secretary can distribute the memos among the class presidents in this set and task them with delivery such that every classroom can receive a memo. I see. So right.
You
So in the
are
tournament,
correctly. It's a tournament graph.
and then you just like need one secretary in each level of the tournament, basically. So
Right.
yeah, actually you must process queue updates in the initial setup for each pair ij. Classroom inj is oriented from I to j. Okay, so what it's telling you is
So
that
you are flipping
everything is
some.
oriented from small to
You are
big.
flipping initially, yes.
I see. I see. I see. I see. So you have to maintain some tournament graph. And then you just need to print the number of levels in this tournament graph at each step. At the
Yeah,
starting, the
like,
levels are n, and then the levels will kind of decrease.
and then everything would like you will flip some corridors and you have to pin the better pencil.
Right. Right. One sec. I see. So let's see. How would you do this? You have n levels at the very start. Suppose you flip one edge. Then now you must have a bunch of nodes. So what might happen is, for example, if you have a tournament graph, or if you have a graph starting with 10 nodes, and you flip the edge between 5 and 2, everything between 2 to 5 compresses into the same node, in some sense.
That's correct.
So, and everything else remains in the same direction. Interesting. So, so for instance, it isn't true that the number of levels always decreases or increases by one. I guess you could have seen that by the input output, sample input output, but still, that's
Like
interesting to note.
so, like sample shows that level will not decrease by one after the flip. It
Right.
can,
It can decrease
but
by a lot more. Can it also
like
it can
if
also
you can
increase
see
by a lot
4 to
more.
1, 1 to
Yep.
right.
Interesting. Oh, they have images. I should have looked at that. So let's see. After the second update, how the tournament graph looks like. Um, right. Let's see what's happening. So you have a bunch of sets, and you flip something. You're attaching yourself to this set, but this set has many more nodes than before. Um, hmm. I guess the good part is, since you can think of tournament graphs as these as like a line, basically, you can think of tournament graphs as a single line, and then just put nodes at different points on that line. Then when you at every point, if you're just maintaining this line of sets, then once you flip an edge, you know exactly which sets are going to be compressed,
Right.
and those become something on that line. I guess the question is, what really happens if you take one of those sets and flip an edge inside a set? That's the harder part. So, for example, if 1 connects to 2, 2 connects to 3, 3 connects to 4, 4 connects to 1, and you flip one of these edges, how do they split into different nodes is the harder part. Merging is the easier part. I guess it would be easier if I could draw something, but yeah. The point is, in a tournament graph, you have these sets of nodes that point to another set of nodes that point to another set of nodes, and so on in some linear fashion. And when you flip an edge that is across different sets of nodes, that's easy to handle. But if you flip an edge that is inside a set of nodes, that's a bit harder to handle. And I'm thinking about how to do that update.
Okay, and like, do you want some hints over here?
I guess what you're really doing is I wish I had pen and paper, but I guess it feels like some maintaining of things that you should be able to do. Yeah, I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to like have you help me go in the right direction.
Okay. So like one hint like that will mostly give away the problem is you don't really care about the edges direction. What you really need is the degree of each node.
Oh, I think I remember this fact that in a tournament, you're right. Okay. So a cool fact about a tournament graph that I keep forgetting about is that when you have this linear fashion chain, then if you consider two nodes from two different sets, the degree of every node in set A has to be lesser, the in degree of every node in set A has to be lesser than the in degree of every node in set B if A points to B. Um,
Like that's
and
correct.
this is a pretty cool fact. So I guess when you flip an edge, you can look at the new in degrees and then just kind of check, do some kind of check um, whether you know whether they flip groups. You can check for both the nodes if they flip groups. So the two nodes are the only thing that have their in degrees changed.
Right. So like as you correctly mentioned that for the tournament graph, like it has very special identity. Like you can figure out some of the details using the degrees only. And like that's essentially the premise of this problem. Like if the sum of first k smallest k degrees is equal to kc2, then what we know is like first k nodes are in the different strongly connected component compared to the other k nodes. So you have to essentially count like sum of like the number of points where sum of first smallest I nodes is equal to IC2. And
Right.
like if you can somehow maintain this property, updating the sorted sequence and maintaining it, you would be able to do it.
I also just noticed that another team from Bits Pilani is now leading the scoreboard because they have lesser penalty. They've also solved the same four problems. And they have a 34-minute lead, it seems like. I hope some teams are looking at this thoughtful secretary thing because this idea that Aryan pointed out of KC2 is something that shows up in Codeforce's rounds often. And I remember that one of the rounds in which I got GM, I solved this problem pretty quickly because I'd seen the idea recently. Uh, so yeah, that's a nice throwback. And I'm sure that some of these teams have seen this, idea and they can kind of
Like
work on this.
like so far I have seen it appearing 4 to 5 times,
Right.
and I was not able to solve any of the time when it came in. So I was like, let's create a problem using it.
Did you author this problem?
So yes, I am the author of this one.
That's pretty cool.
Like
Yeah.
it
I
doesn't involve
think
it doesn't involve any ideas. Like there are two parts to it. One is knowing that you want to maintain a sorted order of I nodes and figure out the points with IC2. And the other is how do you keep updating this when only two values change. And
right.
even the second part, I remember I have seen it in a Code Forces comment by TMW or Game, where they have mentioned like how to solve it 4 to 5 years ago. The main idea is since the value only decreases or increases by one, if you maintain a sorted sequence, let's say 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 3, 5, then if you want to increase by 3, then increase the one which has higher index of 3. So the sorted sequence becomes 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5. And if you want to decrease 3 to 2, like find the first place where 3 appears and subtract it. So the sequence becomes 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 5.
I see.
So if you maintain a sorted array, you can just use lower bound, upper bound to find the points where you should increase or decrease by 1.
That's a really cool idea.
By the way, looks like end of evolution has been solved. So
Like who solved it?
Three Musketeers from IIT Bhubaneswar has solved end of evolution.
That's problem A,
I
right?
would be interested in.
Yeah. And what's surprising is that they haven't solved palindromic polygon yet.
Maybe they were spending all their time thinking about A. But I guess they have submissions on
Like,
yeah. F. Have you already discussed A before? What is the
No, we haven't.
You
No,
haven't? Okay, let's discuss A maybe because the team has solved it now. So it seems like in this statement, Bob is God. In the beginning, Bob created the heavens and earth, and Bob said, "Let there be species," and there was a species. This is funny to me because whenever I go to Starbucks and they ask me for a name for my order, I say my name's Bob.
Nice.
It just makes it way easier for me to get my coffee, I guess. Initially, there was
like
just one
what if
species.
there is one more Bob and there are some birthday reasons?
Right. So I have a whole list. So if I'm with someone named Bob, I go with Dan, and then if I'm with someone named Bob and with someone named Dan, then so you need that backup and backup for backup. But yeah, and Bob said let there be species, and there was a species. Initially, there was just one species, the ancestor of all species to roam the earth. He creatively called it species one. Yeah, just like my creative name. After that, he made n minus one more species. Okay, so there are n species. The ancestor was species one, and each subsequent species was some function of older species. That's what this is telling us. So there is a clear flow from old to new. Bob numbered these species 2 to n, though this numbering is arbitrary and not necessarily in chronological order. So what it's kind of telling us is that there is some order, but we don't know that 1, 2, 3 to n is the correct chronological order. There is some chronological order that maybe we need to think about. So let's see. Some of these species are mature and the remaining ones are young. Interesting. So in my mind, I'm thinking that mature is probably the ones that were earlier chronologically, and young are the ones that came later chronologically. So let's see. What's the algorithm? Bob wants to create more species, so he does it algorithmically. Every night, each young species becomes mature. I see. So basically every species becomes a mature species at the start of every night. And each young species that just became mature generates k children species, where k is a randomly chosen non-negative integer with probability 1 minus p times p to the k. And I guess k is from until infinity because that sums to 1. These k children species are considered young. All right. Wow, interesting. You may now notice that evolution ends as soon as all species become mature. An event Bob calls the end of days. One second. Okay, I think I misread this problem. So what I understand is there are some species from 1 to n. Each young species becomes mature. Each young species that becomes mature on this night generates children species which are not mature, I guess, which are also young. Okay, and there is like a good probability of k also being 0 because there is 1 minus p probability of k being 0. I assume that p has to be less than 1 or something in this problem.
Yes, P is between
Um,
0 to 1, but not
but
exactly 1 or 0.
yeah, it can't be 1. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Okay, so as long as p is guaranteed to be strictly less than 1, there is some non-zero probability of all the species becoming mature and no new young species being generated. That's basically what's being said. And when no new young species are generated, this process ends. Um, the probability of no new young species being generated is, of course, like 1 minus p to the number of mature species, 1 minus p to the number of like young species that become mature. So maybe I'll just say like 1 minus p to the y. Um, let's see. Define the generation count. Wow. Is the largest distance from species 1 to some species? The generation count is the largest G so that there exists a sequence of species S0 to SG satisfying S0 is 1, and for each RE species, SI is a child of species SI minus 1. And child meaning chronologically later, I assume. Did we define child? Oh, the child is the
Like
algorithmic.
new species, the child would be the newborn.
Right, but in 1 to n, what is the child? What is the child of 1?
Okay. Like we are
Is
giving,
that
I
defined?
believe, edges to create this graph, so you can figure it out. It's a tree.
Okay, I see. The generation count is the largest distance from species 1 to some species. And here, of course, largest is well defined because you have this chronological ordering, so you can't have cycles. Um, what is the probability all species become mature and the generation count is exactly 2. Generation count is the max of the largest distances from species 1 to every species. I see. You need to output this probability. Okay, that's fine. So what is the input? Let's see. We're given n, x, y in G. What are x and y? I guess the p. Okay, so p is defined as x divided by y. And x and y are strictly between 0 and 1000 and not 0 or 1000. So, and x is less than y. That's also pretty important. So x is positive, x is less than y, which points to the constraint that Aryan said, that p is neither 0 nor 1. The second line contains y1 to yn, and y tells us if a species is young or mature. And then we have n minus 1, n minus 1 edges, which, as Aryan said, kind of points to the idea of a tree because n minus 1 is the number of edges in a tree. And this says either species U evolved from species V or V evolved from U. I see. So
Mhm.
at the very start, when we said that each of these species evolved from an older species, we mean a single older species. Right. Interesting.
And the node can have at most 3 children, right?
And a node can have at most, sorry.
Like
Three,
K
three
can be up
children.
to infinity. There is no
Oh,
limit over that.
okay.
What we are given is like there is some probability and it decreases exponentially.
And G is between 1 and 10 to the 7. The output format is a probability. So the reason why I'm checking that why this like printing of output in modulo terms is important is because sometimes in these kind of problems where there is some exponentially decreasing probability, you might be all right with simulating this up to a certain extent and outputting in double. So after a certain point, if you're outputting answers in doubles, then exponentially decreasing stuff, the floating point precision tends to kick in, and you don't really care about really like
I have done this in multiple projects, but I don't think I have been that successful to get any doing some code stuff for code forces so far.
I yeah, I actually
But
remember in
like
one of the
that was
ICPC.
like initially the probability function was just 1 by m instead of
Hmm,
those x and y. Like at first it was just 1 by 2 only. Like the probability function was 1 by 2 to the power I. Then we changed it to
right,
1 by n to the power I, and then we changed it to x by y, so that the numbers can have probability more than half.
right.
So like you were saying something.
I was saying that I remember doing this double precision. My teammates ended up doing this double precision thing in one of the reasonals, and the reasonals were only asking for an O of n square solution, but we ended up doing it in O of n for absolutely no reason, which was funny to me. But yeah, and it also cost us a wrong answer. So that teaches you that you should be lax if you can. You don't need to come up with a really good algorithm for an easy problem. But clearly, this problem is not that easy. If only one team has solved it in, I guess, 2.5 hours now. All right, so let's see what's going on. Uh, there is some tree. Each of these species is evolving, and G is the maximum length from one to some species, and evolution ends as soon as all species become mature. Hmm. So first we need the number of young species, and then I guess the species that are
Okay,
already
three
mature.
musketeers.
Yeah,
Okay, continue.
I was going to say that the number of oh wow, three musketeers solved A, and they have
Yeah,
also
that's
solved
what
left
I was
now.
saying.
Yeah,
That's
so
what I
the
was saying. Then I thought not to interrupt you.
right. I guess they would be in the lead if they can solve E. Um, but I
E
was
is
I
a
was going to
hit
say
and miss problem.
E is a what?
Hit or miss problem. Like if you
Hit
get
or
an
miss.
idea,
I
you
see.
will get an AC on it.
Mm. All right. So what I was saying is the mature the the cells that become mature only matter for at the very start that are already mature only matter for kind of maxing the answer with something for the generation length and everything else uh, only the young kind of cells matter or nodes matter. All right, so let's see. This has some weird interactions between expected and max that you probably need to think about. So what you really want is suppose you have a young node. Hmm. You want something like suppose you just have one node and it's young. Is that the special case of this problem? I think so, right? That's a valid special case.
Can you repeat once again?
If you have one node, I want to solve the problem where you have one node and it's young. Because I think solving special cases is a good way to get a hold of the problem.
Yeah, like that's the
So
way
if you
to do.
have
Original problem was just one node and find the height is exactly n.
okay,
Then it
perfect.
was changed
So
to a tree problem.
right. So if you have one node and it's young, let's try to solve that problem. Um, and let's okay, suppose you have some p and you want the expected max height that you can get from this one node. Um, and that problem
Like
seems like a lot
you
more
can
tractable
prove that
than starting to think about this tree. Yeah,
you
go
can
ahead.
prove that the expected height would be almost infinity. At least when the proposal was like x by y was 1 by 2. And
Interesting.
it might be the case that when x by y is more than half, the expected height is infinity, and if it's less than half, then it might be something. But We haven't really tried.
Right. I guess what I really want is the probability that when everything becomes mature, the generation count is exactly G. That's what I want for this problem.
I like it. You can start with assuming that the generation count is less than equal to G
Right.
when everything matches.
Yep.
Then
I
you can
agree.
definitely find for the exact G by the difference.
Yeah, I agree with that line of thinking. I think that's also like a standard way to kind of approach these problems. Um,
Like after this, you will need a pen and paper to proceed further.
sorry,
And after figuring out these details, you will need a pen and paper to figure out further details.
a penalty?
Pen and paper. I don't think you
Oh,
can
pen and
do
paper.
it in a year.
Oh, yeah. But I guess suppose we can figure out the probability of getting less than equal to G, right? Then you're young. Then you can solve the rest of the problem.
Yes.
Because now the rest of the problem is kind of like way simpler once you get this idea, I guess. This is the main hard part, and the rest of the math is easier. Because what you can do is you can look at the length from species 1 to every young node and subtract that from G, and then find the probability that the length from this young node to its generation, this thing is less than equal to G minus Y, or like G minus the length, and do some like inclusion exclusion thing there. Or yeah, I mean just 1 minus some multiplications, basically. Um,
I like everything else is easy. Like the
yes.
faceless
I guess
man
this is the
has
hard
figured
part.
out all the other details apart from
Yep.
figuring out this.
I see, I see. So they figured out everything else before, and then they got this part wrong, is what you're saying. Um,
Yes. And I don't think
right.
they are anywhere close to figuring out this part yet.
Hmm. I see, I see. So so okay, let's spend like maybe 5 more minutes thinking about this part and see if we can get closer.
Like let's say like height is up to 1 in 9 over here, right? Let's say I give you height is up to 7 only. How do you solve this problem?
Right. So I want the probability that when everything matures, G is less than equal to 7 or something.
Hmm.
Um, so let's first take a case and we can have like up to infinite children, which is a little annoying. Hmm. So what do you recurse on here? Suppose with 1 minus p to the n times p to the k, or something. 1 minus p times
Let's
p to
say
the k
you know. Okay.
probability
So next one,
you have k
you know
children.
that the probability is I. Like probability until height I is G. How do you
Yeah,
find the probability that height is at max I plus 1?
right. So I think what I'm trying to do for that is there is 1 minus p times p to the k probability of getting k children. Um, and now suppose I know that I know their probability of being mature and having g less than equal to 7 for each of these, or g less than equal to 6 for each of these. Then I want to find the probability of being mature and having g less than equal to 7 for the first child. And that is going to
So
become
are you trying to
something
use
like 1 minus p mature given g less than equal to 7 time to the k. Right. So it's going to become
like
something like
you can now do
it's going to become something like 1 minus p times. Okay, so this just becomes another infinite series, I guess, is the point,
right?
or something. Yeah,
And like
and you can just
you
sum
can
this
also
infinite
find
series.
that there would be an infinite GP.
Yeah,
Like assuming that it has k child, then the probability would be given function which is also a GP into g e to the power k or g to the power
yeah,
k, right? And if you sum it out, it comes out to a form of one minus the common ratio.
yep.
And like so far so good, you would be able to find that recurrence in paper. And like
Uh,
what the neat thing which Three Musketeers did over here was, but then if you look at this function, like what I did was I manually found this function for multiple small values and like try to figure out like look at a pattern for it.
uh,
And Kevin tried to do it analytically, assuming P as a probability. Then he guessed something. And like I really like the solution of Three Musketeers. What they did was for I probability they assume that it's a numerator is Ni and denominator is Di.
uh,
Like
and
then you
then
will able to write Ni and Di as a function of Di minus one and Ni minus one. Like if
right, I
you
guess
call
that's
the
clean
numerator
now.
as one error and denominator and one error. So they did this and then they matrix exponential to find for a particular height. So it's
Right,
a really neat solution and different from what our testers and everyone else did.
that is very cute. Yeah, I guess it's like much easier to write. Um,
Yeah, like so
as
figuring out like how do we find height is at max I plus one from height is at max I is easier. The hard part is how do we figure out this exact value. We relied upon like brute forcing for small values, looking at the patterns and everything over there, trying to find out everything. So I really like the Three Musketeers solution, and looks like there are more ACs on this server.
Yeah, faceless men.
So like Faceless Man has also just solved this problem,
hmm.
and they are at third rank right now.
If they can get G, they'll be doing pretty well, I guess. Are they close to G?
So like I will
Like
go ahead
in
and
their
look
submission?
over the solution. Yeah, I will open it.
Do you folks
So
want to
like
discuss it as well? I don't think we've discussed it yet.
Which problem?
which
G
problem?
protracted parenthesis. We
Like
just
G,
discussed.
we have discussed the problem statement. It's the bracket one. Like I would be interested in knowing Subham's solution for this one,
Hmm.
and like and probably I'm first more interested in looking at the faceless man's solution for this problem before let's move to G.
Okay.
So give me a minute. Like about I will just pin the link for faceless man's submission for this.
Okay.
Yeah, they also did the matrix exponential thing over here. It's interesting because and now so you were also interested in looking at faceless man's submission for the like I believe that's where they are handicapped with two people. Like had there been a third person in the team participating, that person would have solved protected sequence by now.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know if Shubham knows about it, but faceless men is only competing with two vendors today.
Right. I think Aryan told me about it today morning. Um, I know the feeling because I've also competed with less than three people. Uh, yeah,
In the world finals directly.
yeah. In 21 World Finals. So
Like the issue with this problem is a lot of teams are submitting it. So before I move on to the next problem, like before I move to the next page, someone else submits it.
You're looking at protracted parentherization.
Yes, I'm trying to find faceless man submission for this problem.
Yeah, maybe I can just go over the problem again quickly for Shubham. So you have a string
Okay,
S.
yeah, till then you can discuss the problem statement. And I would
Sure.
be interested in how does Subham
Yeah.
propose it.
Right. So you are given a string of length n, which contains opening and closing parenthesis. And uh, if the string is already balanced, you don't do anything. But if it is not balanced, rather, while it is not balanced, you can perform the following operation. You can pick any index I and j, such that index I has a closing parenthesis and j has an opening parenthesis, and
Mhm.
j comes after I, and you can swap the two. So this is essentially the operation that you can perform. So you want to maximize the number of operations that you can perform, starting from the given string S. And one important thing to note here is that as soon as the string becomes balanced, you can't perform any more operations.
Mhm.
So keep the string unbalanced for as long as possible, and then finally reach a state where the string is balanced. And yeah, you can just perform swaps of this kind, where you just take some closing and opening parenthesis and swap them out. And the constraints are we have 10 power 6 characters per test file at most. So yeah, and per test case we have 5v5 characters. So that's about it. I'm guessing we need a linear solution. Um,
Right.
and these are the samples. So for the first one, um, we already have a balanced string. For the second one, you can see the explanation here. So basically, you just swap out the ones in the middle first, um, and then the first two, and then the last two. So you have three steps, and maybe you
I,
can try solving the last one.
right. I guess. Okay, so suppose you didn't have to stop, then obviously you would end in every closing parenthesis being on the right and every opening parenthesis being on the left. Um, and that's your ideal case, I guess. That's what you really want to get to. Uh, but like, yeah, like the last example kind of shows, you might have to stop early sometimes. So I guess that's a good example to put as a sample test case because it feels like something that people would
Mhm.
miss if it wasn't in the sample.
Yeah,
Yeah, people like me.
Like that's what Weber also filed for. He said just swap the first two, you would have one as an answer.
yeah,
Yeah. Um, but also like, even if you think that the answer is higher, like you might forget that you have to stop once it's balanced. And the last example, that part becomes really important because you start off with choosing the very last, the fourth bracket and swapping it with the fifth bracket. And then you try to swap the first with the second and then the second with the third, but you have to stop because it's already balanced. Um, I think you want to start right to left because okay, so let's see. Balance strings basically the issue is prefixes are going negative, right? So um what's happening in so a common way to think about balance strings is prefixes and you consider every opening bracket a plus one and every closing bracket a minus one. And so as you go summing along the prefix, if your sum ever goes negative, that means that your string cannot be balanced.
mm,
And if it stays non-negative, then and it ends at zero, then it's balanced. I
sure.
guess that's an easy characterization.
Mhm.
So if like you find the first point where the prefix is negative, and then you can do anything you want to the right of this point, and it'll still not be balanced. I guess. So you want to start right to left is what I'm kind of trying to say because you're thinking about prefixes. Um, you want to make every swap you can. So you can probably count the number of swaps you can make to the right, and then you just keep making swaps until you get to like 0 prefix or something.
Okay, so can you just summarize your approach once? Like final, like what you
I
have
think
decided
go
so
right
far?
to left, go right to left. Um, for every closing bracket, count the number of opening brackets after it, and then sum that up. And then until you get to the very first point where the prefix was negative, and then for them you sum like, you know, just the like the prefix sum, you know, just that negative prefix sum or something, or maybe by two, don't remember. Let's see.
Yeah, like the idea is good, and I'm happy that you fell for it. Like
I
that was
think,
the
yeah,
first submission I wrote for this problem, but
yeah,
the issue is this doesn't work. The idea is correct,
yeah.
but this is not enough. And I was looking at Faceless Nine submission as well. Like that's exactly
Uh-huh.
what they have coded and got a W on it.
I see. So let's try to figure out why this is wrong.
Okay.
Is going right to left wrong? Let's see. Is that the issue, or is the prefix sum the issue? Um, you're swapping closing brackets with opening brackets later. The first negative point is always going to be a closing bracket. Okay. Uh,
Yes, should I help you out?
sorry.
Should I help you out over here, or like you want to take
Uh,
some?
maybe I actually think like, yeah, this is just one, like this is just a problem where I have to write down a bunch of examples and see what
Yes.
happens or something.
Like one more thing you can do is like if you fix the first -1, right,
Yeah.
and you were swapping everything to the right of it, right?
Yep.
Can you do it for the left part as well? Like everything before it, like because you know there is a -1 over there.
Oh yeah,
So
I guess you
number
can
of
also do it for
closing
the left
bracket
part.
until they point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can also do it for
I
the
also
left
did
part.
that,
Yeah.
and that also
That
gets a
that that
W.
feels, yeah, that feels like not correct. Um,
So the main idea for this problem is you fix a minus position of -1 and swap everything to the left and right of it,
mm.
and at
And
last fix
then
that
like
-1 to a 0.
I
Now
see.
you can iterate over the position of -1s.
And you can do this pretty fast. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and
Okay,
like -1
let's
from the front, you can also do the same thing when you are maintaining suffix sum and there is a 1 from the bottom back.
right. Um, I want to I want to take a couple minutes to think to prove it in my head, or like 1 minute to prove it in my head. So there has to be one point or like one bracket which is being resolved at the very end. Um, yeah, I guess, and that's the -1 that you're fixing, right? So any sequence of doing these, getting to a balanced string has to have a closing bracket at the very end, and that closing bracket is the -1 that you're fixing, and therefore everything works out. And that can be any position, so you just try all of them. I see. So you can check prefixes this way.
Okay.
Why do you need to check suffixes?
Like you can either run a for loop in reverse order, or you can just reverse the string and swap closing bracket with opening bracket and run the same algorithm.
Right. I guess I can see why the solution would probably pass, but I can't prove why it's correct. Can you help me prove that this is always correct?
Yeah, like let's look at this way. Like at last you will have this thing as perfectly balanced.
Hmm.
And the very last you make a swap would change prefix somewhere from -1 to 0.
Yes.
Or suffix some from 1 to 0.
Uh-huh.
And so if you fix a position, like you can take it anywhere over there, as long
Oh,
as
I
you
see. I
can,
see.
you
Okay.
just split you just split this thing in such a way that either the left part has one extra bracket than closing bracket, or the right part has one extra opening bracket. Once
I
you
see. I see.
fix
So I
that
kind of,
position, you do
yeah.
everything on the both of the part, as many operations as you can, and at last do that operation and done with it.
I guess the important part is that um, the bracket that you're fixing, you're going to swap it exactly once at the end. And yeah,
Right.
okay, yeah. And in
So
the
like
original, like in
if
what
I
we were
will,
trying before, we might have swapped it multiple times, and that like makes a difference. Yeah, I agree.
can
I
you
think
repeat
it's
the last
probably
statement once?
so in the original greedy solution that we were trying, right? What we were doing is we were taking the first point where prefix was negative, or I guess that first point would also be a -1. But yeah, never mind. I was just yeah, I was just thinking about things a little incorrectly, but let me think about it. So why do we need to do both prefixes and suffixes? Is one not sufficient? Just one of them should be sufficient, right? Because if you're swapping a closing with an opening bracket, then you're swapping an opening with a closing bracket, and either of them, you can probably go either way.
But the people in the chat are complaining that we are not doing any commentary over here rather than solving live on stream. So, like, do you have any new proposal to look out for?
I think we should like.
Like,
I
one of
guess what usually happens in ICPC streams is that they have kind of a video view of the regionals, and then you're able to see the teams, and that makes for a lot more interesting commentary because you can see what kind of things teams bring. They bring their own plushies and team mascots, and they have coaches coming on, but we haven't gotten to that point yet, and that's why we're kind of trying to substitute this with other stuff.
like basically we are limited by technology of our time. We don't have live stream of the participants where we can look at what exactly they are doing right now. So like the only thing we have is score. Probably Webo, can you open the scoreboard like people are asking in the chat? Like the current status is like six teams have solved four problems and no one has solved the fifth problem yet. And like mod message has also been solved by the team TBD from Triple IT Hyderabad.
What problem is that? Mod messages.
Yep.
Mod message. The
Interesting.
initial version of this problem asks for finding some or all the subarrays, but it's an interesting, like probably we can discuss it once as well.
I think I need to leave soon. Um, but
Okay.
But yeah, this was fun. I
So
think,
probably
yeah.
before we drop off, like, would you like to share your experience participating in 4-5 regionals and qualifying for 4 World Finals? Terms and conditions apply.
Um, I guess three, but yeah, sure. I'm also willing to like answer
Like
questions
I
if
will
people
count
have
Egypt.
them.
I will count Egypt twice. I will count Egypt
Okay,
twice. So like
sure,
one is the World Finals, one is Bangladesh, and you qualified for one World Finals in Egypt, but I counted it twice because you would be meeting twice the number of teams over there.
sure. Um, yeah, and if people have questions, I'm also willing to answer them. But I think roughly, so the story is that I started programming once I joined college. and it was pretty fun because there were all of these people who were doing problems together, and I didn't have to kind of sit alone and solve problems. I had a bunch of people I could solve problems with. That's really what made ICPC a lot of fun for me. I also had a couple of teammates who were very dedicated, and we ended up making world finals back in 2019 in Amritapuri, and that was Russia. That was the Russia World Finals, and we all know what happened in 2020. I didn't actually end up going um, because the World Finals didn't actually happen, and there was a year of basically you know being demotivated for a bit, then going back to CP, and because there wasn't that much else to do during COVID, um, I became a lot better. In 2021, there was another Indian regional. There was no Indian regions in 2020, I think, if I remember correctly. They were all postponed to 2021.
No, I think in
Um,
2020, yes, they were postponed to 2021.
right. And I actually wrote multiple blogs about ICPC, about my ICPC experiences. You can go and read them. I think they talk a lot about specific problems and how we thought about them, and it's useful from a team perspective. But in 2021, what happened was both of my teammates after COVID were kind of a bit tired of CP, and so I ended up finding two new teammates and ended up participating again. And it turns out we did pretty badly in the first regional. But one thing that ICPC kind of teaches you, this is important for a lot of teams, is you are more than the sum of your parts, and it's very important to have good teamwork and communication. And in things like, especially in things like how much time you spend on the computer and how much time you spend debugging your teammates' codes, these things end up mattering a lot for especially for the top teams. So top teams often have a system where they don't spend more than like they don't read their own code for more than like 3 times or so. They give it to their teammates, or they ask their teammates to recode it if it's an easy problem, and things like that. And we've learned a lot from these mistakes basically over the years. And we kind of spent a lot of time after the first regional working on that, and we won the second regional in 2021. Um, I went to Bangladesh for that. That was pretty fun. And then I went to the US and I was doing grad school at Stanford. Someone texted me and said, "Do you want to participate again?" And I thought I could not, but ICPC came up with this rule saying that everyone who went to Russia could do one more year of ICPC. So I ended up participating again. And NAC was a very different experience from all the Indian regionals. Um, I guess it was a lot more competitive. There was really no shot at us ever winning. Like that just wasn't on our bingo card at all. There's a bunch of LGM teams and stuff, so it's really hard. There's also MIT who ended up winning World Finals at NEC, but it's exciting because they have sponsors, and it kind of told me what we want Indian ICPC to look like 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line. There's a long way to go. Like someone said, commentary. I think it's really nice that all of you are doing commentary for this, because I remember like when I was participating, there was no video commentary at all. All you could do was follow on Twitter on some thread that was updated based like at some point, depending on whether some person was free and the regional was going smoothly. So
Like
Yeah,
I think
Weber used to write a commentary on a Code Forces blog back then, and like
I see.
at that point of time, the commentary most of the time was pretty much this problem has now been solved, this problem has now been solved. Sometimes tidbits about what different teams are doing. And
Right.
like someone
Um,
is asking you, like, what do you think about single prelims for all the regionals?
um, I don't know. I've always found the prelim system non-ideal because in my second, like in the year I qualified for World Finals, honestly, our worst um, fear was doing badly at prelims, like not at regionals, because back then I think now prelims are a lot better, or I've heard like it's been you have a lot more problems and it's a lot easier to select the best teams. But back then, prelims were a little bit of a mess, honestly. Um, there were four problems or five problems, and three of them were easy, two of them were really hard. So there would be a bunch of teams that were just sorted by penalty, and you making a regional was a little bit of random luck. Um,
Like you.
I do think it's a lot better now, though. Just in terms of the prelim quality, I like the US system a lot
Okay.
more, but also it's really hard to do in India, where there is like a smaller regional in every location where all the teams come and then they have prelims there, and then you go to another regional, and it also allows you to travel a lot more, but it it just seems physically hard in a country as big as ours. I don't think there's a good solution.
So like you participate in regionals in North America and in India. Like how do you compare
Right.
both of them?
One
Like
sec.
one of the thing can be like the level of competitiveness over there compared to over here as well. Like did you find it a lot harder to compare qualify from there compared to India or
I think I personally thought that the prelims or what they call regionals is basically prelims in India, which is a little confusing. And what India calls regionals is basically North American championships there. So, so this mapping is a little bit confusing, but I thought that their regionals were a lot more fair because they had like a 5 hour contest with one computer, 3-person team, and like 12 to 13 problems. And generally, like when I qualified, when I did their regionals, like the 1 year I did their regionals or their prelims, I we ended up solving like 12 of the 13 problems, and we were second on tiebreak or like penalty. And the first team was also on 12. So, and the second team was on 11, the third team was on 9, and so on. So it was like a very well distributed scoreboard, and it was a lot less random for us to make the North American championships. Whereas in India, I remember we got 7 of 8 problems, and there were like 15 teams or 20 teams on 7 on 8. And if any of them were also IIT Bombay, and if they weren't really above us, it turned out that way. But if they had been above us, we would have been like it. We didn't even know if we would make regionals being in top 20 or something, and that was a little scary, honestly. Uh,
So one thing I've observed about the American regionals as well is that they start preparing problem sets much earlier than
hmm.
us, which also gives them more leeway to smoothen the gradient a little bit. Um, 'Cause, yeah, then you have a lot of time to get things tested much earlier, see what people think about the set overall. So I think that also makes a little bit of a difference.
I do think that like in the last maybe 2 or 3 years, the problem set quality, or at least kind of moderation in India, is going up in the sense that we don't have any unoriginal problems, or we don't have any. I remember this one regional in 2018 or 19, which just had direct problems from CP algorithms, and that was a little disappointing. For example, Fibonacci nim. You can go and search this problem. I think it might have even been called Fibonacci nim, but yeah, and that was a little not good. But now problems are generally original. One thing that I would say to all the viewers is if you've done ICPC before, if you want to donate problems, you should definitely consider donating to India Resource, or I mean, I think they pay you, right? Uh, there is some call for problem setters and stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
I mean, setters do get paid, and I believe testers too at some point. But yeah, it's more about
Yes,
getting a variety of
that's
different
true.
problems.
Right. So if people have problems, you should definitely consider contributing and setting ICPC. That's one of the things that we struggle with, getting enough problems and being able to choose a good difficulty gradient. That's also one thing I felt about NEC is that um, it
Like
didn't feel
one more
very
issue
luck
we
based.
faced is one more issue we faced is like once people graduate, like they no longer do CP,
Right.
and like we do not want to accept problems from the people who are participants themselves. So
Yep.
like it's a chicken and egg problem over here. The ones who can submit, we are not accepting from them, and ones who can submit, they are not preparing enough. Like someone in the chat asked, did Jatin Yadav set any of the problem? Like for this regional, he didn't set any problem, but in the online regional, that passing game was authored by him.
Yeah, Jatin is a beast. He's set like so many problems. He's just a machine. But
Like last year, like half of the problems in the Asia West were by Jatin.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you would just end up writing the entire regional by himself.
Mm.
and his problems are also really high quality, which is commendable. Um,
Like
I
he
think
created one complete contest for OC Jack camp, and like Anton and everyone had really good feedback about that. Like
I
they
think he
really
also
liked
made
his
a
problems.
TCO. He also made a TCO
Yeah,
finals set.
Yeah,
right. He is one of the first, in, I believe, first competitive programmer to make it to TCU in last 12, 13 years or so. Like ignoring
Yeah,
the time when Harsa and Prasanna were the OG participants from India, who had also qualified for the Kojam. Like so, Jatin qualified via problem set test, right? Like he contributed enough problem that they invited him for the TCU World Finals. And unfortunately, due to COVID, it was online. Otherwise, he would have met everyone, Jatin, Umnik, tourists, everyone over there. So that's how we are.
I guess one funny thing is at NAC, like I think after 2.5 or 3 hours, or maybe 3.5 hours, I was kind of sure that we were qualifying for World Finals, and it was a lot less variance. Whereas in India, until the last like 30 minutes, I have no idea whether we are 20th or first. And I remember that there was
Yes.
this year in 2021 where we were, I think, 17th on the board 20 minutes before the end, or maybe we were 20th even. And then I solved a problem, and then my teammates solved, like, we were the only team that solved some geometry problem 3.5 minutes before the end. And we jumped to like first
Like
place,
I
and
was I was fourth in that contest, and I pretty well remember like what surprise came at the end after the
oh, right,
scoreboard was frozen.
right, yeah, exactly. Like, I think those kind of heart pounding moments where your heart literally stops beating, that has definitely happened to me a lot more times in India. Maybe it's given me good stories to talk about. So, so yeah,
Like I'm
that's
just happy that in the world finals the roles were reversed.
yeah. Um, well, I won't talk about that.
Like where where you
Yeah,
ended up solving four problems in first 2.5 hours, and then you were studying on next three problems. While on the other hand,
yeah,
our team did not solve anything in the first 2.5 hours, and then we solved five problems in last half, and two of them was solved after the scoreboard was over.
right. I think
So like that was
like that's what I tell all ICPC teams. It's a lot about debugging each other's, like knowing how each other works. A lot about teamwork, and
and like
we
I
really struggled in
remember
that.
pretty well like we had like I remember pretty well that contest like we had 80 minutes remaining, and like I told one of my teammates, you either solve the A problem, otherwise I will solve L. And he was like, "What the fuck is this? If you can solve L, just go and code it." And by the time I completed coding for the L, he was ready with solution for A as well. So that those two were back-to-back problems. Like
I
ICPC stories are always interesting in retrospect when you look back. Like there would be some high moments which you will never forget, and there would be some moments with other people will ensure you don't forget.
yeah, I think I mean I'm not super like sad about it. I think like it just illustrates what I keep telling participants that teamwork is pretty important, and I kind of knew this would be an issue, or like we kind of knew that it wasn't good because I had been in the US for, you know, like already a year and a half at that point. Everything was so delayed. And my teammates had been like in different areas. None of us had ever practiced in person. We just had no idea of how to kind of coordinate as a team. And that really shows in the contest. So you should ensure to do that. Remember that you're three people solving problems together, not three individual programmers like just in a team because the rules say so. Uh, and that will
Like
change
three
your
people
performance.
solving problems together, not three grandmasters solving randomly solving 13, 12 problems independently.
Exactly, exactly. Um, and that is just a huge difference maker. All right. I should probably go, but this was pretty fun, and I'm excited to see. So I guess teams have solved four problems still,
Yes, that's right.
Yes,
and it's
number of
been
teams solving four has increased, but
it's
like
been
the
three and a
rank
half
list would be
hours.
frozen in half an hour.
Mm. I wonder if some team got D as well. Yeah, okay. I wonder if teams will start
Mm.
just submitting on random problems to mislead other teams, but we'll see. Uh,
Like
and
I found it surprising that no one has tried solving D yet.
someone has solved D.
Like yeah, like only one person has
Yeah,
solved D.
only one.
Mm.
So like that was surprising, and like slothful secretary, no one has even tried submitting it. While
Yeah,
at
yeah.
some point we were considering it as a discarded problem, like we were considering to discard it because it's a standard problem. Like I proposed the same problem last year, and we did not end up using it in AWS because everyone felt it's too standard and like all the ideas already exist.
All right. See you guys.
All right. Bye.
Thanks Subham for
Next.
joining. So like we can now introduce Subham, I believe, if we haven't introduced him yet. So like Subham goes by the username the one you want. He has qualified for the world finals three times. Two times from IIT Bomb, representing IIT Bombay in Moscow World Finals 2020 and Bangladesh World Finals 2021. Later, because ICPC allowed people participating for the third time, he again qualified by representing Stanford, and he is qualified for yet to be held Egypt World Finals. And he has been a problem setter tester for with us multiple times. And right now he's in US working for a quant firm, and he was in India for a week. Tomorrow he would be leaving back to US again. So like he wanted to be say like just here because it's fun, and I had a lot of fun time participating like competing against Subham and competing with Subham when we are trying to solve and discussing problem ideas and everything. So like at one point of time we even had a bet like who becomes grandmaster first. So that's how yeah.
And who won the bet?
Like Subham won the bet. Then he ended up raising it to IGM, and now he has just left Code Forces, and I am on probably on the same path. Like after World Finals, I did announce that I have retired now, but looks like I am back doing some more time.
Yeah, I think we need you to be.
Looks like Three Musketeers has solved five problems.
Oh,
Like
nice.
the very recent problem they have solved is mod messages.
Wow, and they are yet to solve pairwise perfect. So I think
Yeah,
if they can figure out an
like
idea for it.
pairwise. Like I am more interested like what they are thinking about pairwise perfect. The issues they haven't submitted it anything.
Yeah, and it's good that they don't have any time penalties as well on mod messages. I think that will help them a lot.
Yeah,
Um, as other
like
teams also.
the only place where they are lagging at is the total time because they
Mm,
are solving it slowly over here.
yeah.
Probably let's look at if Three Musketeers have wrote some interesting facts.
Can you give a brief overview of the problem?
Like, okay, 1 second. I would be back in some minutes. Give me
Yeah.
3 4 minutes. Okay, I would be back in 2 3 minutes. Okay, so like let's read this problem mod messages. Oh, like okay, someone is asking, will I not discuss Pinley round today? I don't think I would be discussing it. It might be
Which
exhausted with this commentary and other details. Or like I sometimes do side commentary on YouTube problems.
oh, okay.
So like people are asking me that. Okay, going to the mod messages. This problem is tribute to all the moderators who are working tirelessly to keep the trolls and bullies at bay, and to make sure that the internet is a friendly and safe place. There are n moderators communicating with each other through a private network. The moderators are numbered 1 to n. The favorite number of a moderator I is fi. So like we are given like there are n people, they have some favorite number and they are doing something on the side. There are n minus 1 pairs of moderators that have direct contact with each other. These pairs have a property that there is a unique path from any moderator to the other, where a path from moderator x to y is defined as sequence of distinct numbers s0, s1, sk. So like okay, Udit is here. Like probably they
Hello,
have it.
can you hear me?
Like would you like to like Udit is a problem setter or this problem? Would you like to discuss it?
Wait one
Like I
second.
can complete the
Complete
reading the
the.
problem statement part and then we can proceed further. So like so far what we have read is there are n moderators, each of them have a number fi. We are also given that there are n minus one pair of moderators who are in direct contact with each other. And like it basically says that the set of moderators can be if we modulate is a graph problem, then the set of moderators would be a tree over here. And like for each moderator x to y, there would be some path, like some immediate moderator using which he can talk to the final moderator. And like when moderator X messages moderator Y, X first sends a text message as a sort of virtual handshake. The message starts at fx, but as it travels through a path from x to y, it gets modded along the way that they are mods afterward. formally handshake message that moderator Y receives from Y is like this is given like you each time get a new number you mod it with the favorite number of the moderators. Like where f of s like you take the first number, mod it with the second number on the path, then mod it with the third number on the path, then mod it with fourth number on the path, keep on until you reach the last moderator. Now you have to answer q queries. In each query you are given two moderators x and y, and you need to find the handshake message that y receives from x. So like now over to you, Udit. Like probably we can give chat some time. You can probably say like how did you came up with this problem, what was the inspiration behind this problem.
Yeah, so like this was actually like created by me and Shashwat Chandra like I think a few years back. I don't even remember, but yeah, I think he created he created it for like his school contest exam or something like some other variant of this, and then I had modified it for uh, like uh, this contest for like in my college, but like uh, it wasn't like it didn't end up being used. So like I put it here, and yeah, and like what do you like in the chat? Like, are there any ideas from people? I'm actually sitting here in the like not like yeah, in the like near the labs, like not very near. I don't think they can hear me, but like so I'm here at the contest. Uh,
You
yeah,
are on set
it's
right along with the tutor.
yeah, yep. The teams unfortunately are not
So
really
like
asking any doubts, so my job here is pretty much useless.
okay, I would be back in 5 minutes.
What?
Back in 5 minutes till that Vaibhav,
Okay.
you and Udit can take over.
So it seems many teams are solving A now. I'm really surprised how many teams solved E.
So like E, like I found it difficult, like
Yeah,
because it's just another
like
problem
I
hit
had
or miss type of a problem.
yeah, like I didn't code the problem, so
Like
like I don't. I had a few like heuristic ideas for E, but like I didn't know if they would pass. So like maybe the some of the heuristics are passing, I guess. So yeah, like E
like
can't really know unless you really try it, I guess.
right, that's correct. And like I have a simple idea, but that works when the coordinates allowed are up to 4e6 instead of 2e6. So like
Hmm.
probably Ice Knight, who is the problem setter for this one, has some more ideas to how to keep it for that.
Yeah,
And then the other
yeah,
solution I had was order n square into 100 test cases, which barely passes in
yeah,
900 milliseconds, where the time limit is 1 second. So probably
yeah.
let's just look at what the team at the top three musketeers are doing with this problem. So 1 second, three musketeers. Okay, three musketeers. Recent submission was a TLE. Okay, what they? Okay, I will So, Vaibhav, can you just open your submission?
Submission. Okay.
Yeah, like I said, the link. Okay, if we directly jump onto the solve function, what they are doing is they are maintaining a set of points, and when they are trying to add a new point, they first check if a particular point is a perfect square or not. Or other way around, what they are doing is like they have fixed a point xy, then they are like how many times it pairs up with the current point. Like if you add a new point xy to it, like how many new perfect squares are get added to it. And if it's greater than count plus temp, they break, otherwise continue. If the count is greater, they add y to it, otherwise they push back the current answer x comma y and count as to the temp. Like it's one of the simplest idea which you could come up with. Like you maintain 2 points x and y, you try to increase y and find a point as greedily as long as you can, and then you move on to the next x. And unfortunately, it gets really because like y would even go until 1e6, and you are also running an order and algorithm to check whether the current count of points over here. So like I have coded this up and I know that this is supposed to be T. And looks like faceless men are at top right now. Like someone just wrote it
Yeah,
in the chat.
and I think one of their
And they
advantages is also like they have solved E. So like I think if you don't get E in the beginning, like it's not one of those problems that like with more time, like you have a much greater chance of getting. While as like for a problem like D, you have like more teams will like the distribution of it being solved will tend more towards the end. So they're more likely to solve it, I guess, rather than like Three Musketeers solving
right,
E.
right. So like the very recent problem they have solved is protected parentheses as well. I believe it's the second easiest problem of the set. And more, I believe they took this much time because of the handicap of a player team member they have over here. But like it's interesting to see that they are still at the top of the scoreboard even with two members. So like moving on to like so like the very first idea Three Musketeers have on this problem is pretty much like the first solution which anyone should code it up, and like they will have to figure out more insights on this problem to get some idea. Like in this solution, their y would be up to 1e5. They are checking all 2023 pairs at each y, and then you have 100 test cases again. So like in the way it's supposed to pass. And expected it got TLE on the very first test case as well. And like, what do you think? Like, faceless men should solve the next problem. Like, would you recommend them to solve your problem if had it been the case, or like, do you think they should try to approach other problems in the
Yeah,
comment
yeah,
chat?
definitely. Yeah, I mean, amongst the problems that are left, I think yeah, D is definitely the easiest one. Then uh, H, I think it's yeah, like maybe H as well, but then mm, yeah, probably D, I guess. And then B is I don't think any team would solve B, so then there's a chance no one solves H and I as well, I think, but yeah, D is the easier one.
Yeah, like I would say I is also not that easy. Like initial version was easy
Yeah,
compared to this one, and then Jatin misread the problem, and
yeah,
now that's the version which Jatin misread and tried to solve is what we are using in this contest. And even the problem setter, like the initial version was you do like probably if you web open the problem statement, we can discuss it once as well.
Pairwise perfect, right?
Prob- no, I problem. Like the swingly short one. Okay, the problem statement is short. You are given an like though no story is nothing more that to the statement. You are given an array A containing an integer and an integer k. You would like to transform it into a sorted array. You can perform the following operations any number of times. Choose k indexes and select cyclically shift the values at these indexes. That is, AI moves to I2, AI2 moves to I3, and AK moves to I1. Note that the indexes you choose for the cyclic shift must always be increasing. The cost of this operation is 0. Or choose an index I and either increment or decrement AI by 1. This operation has a cost 1. So what we see is like we should try to do as many operations of type 1 as we want because they are given to us free of cost. And we have to find the minimum total cost of operation to transform the array into a sorted array. And then there are some notes and everything over there. And like the k is fixed for each operations of type 1 and k can vary from 1 to n. So like the very first version people should try to solve is like the operations are not in increasing order and forget about the edge cases where k equal to 1 or k equal to n. Once you are solved with those cases, then k equal to 1 is a completely different solution over here. And k equal to n pretty much does k equal to 1 n times. And probably the solution for k equal to 1 has appeared multiple times on code process. That's what I can say. And like the other part was on you, but would be easier to figure it out. And like the
Do you think?
overall complexity here.
Do you think the teams? Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
Can you repeat one? Can
No,
you
I was
like
saying. Do you
ask
think
what
that?
you were asking to me?
Do you think the teams would like have the thing required for k equal to 1 in their templates?
I don't think it would be in the template, but like the code is pretty short, and if someone have coded it and remembered it, they would be able to do it. Like it's not something like nothing a heavy data structure or anything where you need to have it in the notebook.
Yeah.
And like when I tested this problem, what I essentially did was copied my code for the submission, copied 10 lines from it for k equal to 1, and rest of the details are easy. Like easy, I would say it's relatively because I am from the other side where I have seen people discussing problem, coming up with this version of the problem, and then coding the problem while testing. While contestants are given directly this problem where they are trying to solve it and they are finding it really hard. So like that's the advantage I have. So like I believe we have discussed like would you like to discuss solution for your problem like mod messages?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. So, yeah, can you open that problem? Yeah. So basically, like I guess in such kind of tree problems, what you want to like try doing is first like asking like, can you solve this problem for an array, like, or I mean like, or like just how do you? This is like whatever the length of this number of operations is, like as in like f s0 mod fs1, like they're like k terms. Can you like sort of simplify this expression? And the idea is like let's try to do this for an array. Forget about a tree. The idea is that when you do a mod operation, like two things can happen. Either the number becomes like much smaller than itself, or it remains the same, right? So like if if you're doing A mod B, then if B is greater than A, then the number doesn't change. And otherwise, the new number like A mod B is less than like A by 2. Right. So
Yeah, like it's a
this
good
is
observation. Like when you mod one number with the other, either the number will remain same or it will reduce at least half.
right. So the idea is that the number, like if it's reducing by at least half, then this reduction can't take place a lot of times, right? It can only take place log amount of times. So and like so what we just want is we want the places where this reduction takes place. So we basically just want the next element which is less than equal to our current element. That's all.
Right. Okay. It's a good observation.
So
Like if you do
yeah.
x mod y, if y is more than x, then the answer is still x. And if y is less than equal to x, then x reduces at least half. So if we try to solve this problem, like what Udit is essentially saying is, if you have the current value as x, try to find the nearest element in x in this array, which is less than equal to x.
Yeah, and
Right.
you can this if you just have to find the next greater element, then like you can use a stack. Like if it's an array, then you can just using a stack you can find the next smaller element, and through that you can just constantly go to the next smaller element and like mod it. There is one catch, however, it's that you don't just like it's not exactly like you want it from the current element. You want it from like the current mod sum. So it's not exactly like just the next smallest element. It's just like you'll have a query of the kinds like get the smallest get a smaller element than some number, and this can be done using a segment tree. And there are two ways to sort of do this. Like, so basically, right now, what the sub problem we are dealing with is that you are given a number and you are at an index. You want to find the next index, the first index from the current index where the number is smaller. So uh, the, this easier way to do this would be like to basically binary search on which position the next position could be, and like try to find the range minimum using a segment tree. But you can sort of do an implicit binary search on the segment tree directly as well. So do you want to explain it in a better way, Aryan?
Yeah, like I would say is like once we have figured out that if we are solving it in an array, and if until x the value is x, we want to find the smallest value j, which is more than I, such that value of aj is less than equal to x. And one way you can do is you can try to do binary search on j, and using segment tree or range minimum query, something like that, to find a range minimum. And like this would be overall order log square n, and there are some segment tree templates that can do this in log n as well. And if you keep doing it, like you know that the value will reduce at max log n times. So what you can do is you start with value a1, you find the value first value which is less than equal to a1, find it, mod it, and let's say the new value is it, like b1 b2. Now find the next value which is the next nearest index from current value which has value less than equal to b2. Go to that index, mod it again. Now the new value is b3. Now find the next value on the same path which is less than equal to b3. Like this is how you do it for an array. And like now they probably you can try to explain the graph variant for it.
Yeah,
Like a whiteboard would have been useful to explain it, but I guess like
Yeah,
that's
I
fine.
mean to just go from an array to the tree variant, like you can use something called heavy light decomposition, which basically divides the tree structure into like paths. So it's like sort of converts the tree into like a bunch of the path you want in the tree to a like bunch of arrays, and you can do the exactly the same thing. So I guess if you don't know heavy light decomposition, uh, there's one other way actually. You can like if you don't know heavy light decomposition, it's a
I mean,
bit
like
harder. But
at
I
this
think
point, like if you know, like if you know heavy light decomposition by now, you can just use it as a black mouse and call it a day. But like you can do it the other way as
yeah,
well, like where the code would be relatively small and you don't need something known as heavy light structure, data structure sort of thing. So like over to you, Dina.
sorry, I couldn't hear you. Did you say something?
I was saying over to you again. Like you can continue explaining your solution, and I can try to simplify it later on.
Yeah, I mean that's basically it. Like once you can do it, you can do once you do it in an array, uh, heavy and if you know heavy light decomposition, uh, you don't really need anything else. So, and I guess most teams would have it in their template. In fact, even just yesterday, I was like the volunteers were like seeing the templates yesterday, and I saw heavy light decomposition multiple times. So I think most teams should have it in their templates. Uh,
I
and
believe
like
like teams
if they
have
do,
heavy light
then
decomposition. We like even we also had heavy light decomposition in our template. So like that should be the
yeah,
part. One more insight where which we can use over here is like the queries are not forced to be done online. So we can also
yeah,
do it offline. Like for a path x to y, we can find an LCAN, try to find the answer for x to L, and then try to find the answer from L to x. And like
yeah.
this part would be similar to our last year's Amritapuri problem, which I created. Like the problem, like let me try to fetch the problem. So like obviously you need a segment tree, but you can do it offline, like when while doing a DFS over there. One second, like what was the problem name? Okay, Amritapuri Regional. So last year I created one problem knockout miracle where you were doing the similar thing, running a DFS, trying to find something on the segment tree. So like if instead of doing it via HLD, you can follow a similar approach while doing it offline over there. Probably the details are not concrete yet, but probably it should give you some pointers on how to approach this problem. So I believe we ended up discussing most of the problems. Like, are there any problems left over here?
So
Like we discussed,
just
we
like
discussed
seven
end of
minutes till the
evolution.
end. Do you think what?
Like
7 minutes before
discussing
the
on the
freeze?
problems. I 7 minutes before the freeze. And do you think I believe there would be more issues on it before the freeze? I don't think we would have anything changes on top five before the freeze. I can try to look at is it like let's look at is it rated's solution for the A, like what they are doing over here. Like we will close the stream when the rank list freezes. Okay, like the first problem is end of evolution. Let's look at is it rated submission for this problem. So is it rated got a TLE on this problem? Like, probably Webber, can you open their code over here? Okay, it looks like is it rated were very close to it, and they were trying to submit with a brute force solution to see if some of their test cases passed, so that they know like they definitely, if you look at their code, you will see a for loop which runs up till G on line 55. So it's
Can the
definitely
contestants
a
see
source
like
out way, like they need.
which cases pass?
I believe contestants are able to see like how many test cases their code has passed. So like they knew when they were submitting that they would get a TLE, but they were trying to see like is their recurrence, like whatever they are doing in line from 55 to 67 is correct. But they got a TLE on the very first test case itself, so it's not at all helpful. But looking at their code, what I see is like it's correct. Like they have an idea like what should the answer look like. All they have to optimize is line 55 to 67. Like they have correct for recurrence relation over here. Like the other teams did it using matrix multiplication. I found it neat. And if they can figure out like they can do it via matrix multiplication, they can call it a day with an AC on this problem. So like I would be betting on them to get an AC on this problem.
What other teams do you think are in the like uh, in the same like position to win right now?
Like looking at the
Like
other
what are the
teams,
strong
like
teams out there?
I am betting. Okay, like so looks like Febo is not around, but yeah. I am betting on Faceless Man getting an AC on mod multiplication, mod messages. Like they have one and a
Yeah.
half hour left, and looking at that, they have solved A. Like they have solved A and rest of the problems. It would be more sort of an exercise of the coding implementation rather than figuring out new details. Like they would have definitely knew the fact that when you do something mod, the value either remains same or it reduces by half. And like Three
Yeah.
Musketeers, I'm not sure if they would be able to get an AC on pairwise perfect. Like it's a hit or miss problem. Either you will get it or you won't get it. Apart from that, in top five, I don't see much submissions. I have looked at the code for is it rated for the problem A, and I believe they would be able to get an AC on it. Like they have figured out all the details that needs to be figured out using pen and paper. It's more like mixing up those things and coding it. Apart from that, like there is a team at rank 8 from IIT Roorkee, which has also made some attempt on problem A. And like I can try to
Mm.
search their code like to see what exactly they are doing right now. And like have they figured out the enough
Uh,
details.
IT's Patna
Like
team
their
is
very recent
ranked 31, which I thought was
like
quite
what
a strong team. But yeah, they're struggling
I
on DE
believe that
things.
is yeah, like Malana team, like is it awakeness team? Like okay, looking at it, looks like they solved a problem, but they are
Yeah.
struggling on
Yeah.
patent.
Yep.
Like probably, I believe Malana team is awakeness team, and they have already qualified for the Egypt
Yeah, it
World
is.
Finals last year. So like they were one of the favorites, but today looks like they are struggling. But we never know. In the end, you can always get an answer. Like looking at their current situation, like okay, 1 second.
Fun fact,
Malana team is
actually,
at
they
rank
were
32.
like,
They
I
would
think,
be able to get AC. I am betting on them to get an AC on. Like I would be interested in knowing their solution for mod multiplication as well. So let's look at their wrong answers as well. I will start with IIT Roorkee's
uh,
submission. Like let's look at like
yeah, a fun
whether
fact,
I have sent
actually, I
you
think
or
they
probably
put like, Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, the net is quite bad here. But a fun fact, not maybe not so fun, but like I think their team was had like some internet issues in the beginning of the contest. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's
Okay, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
mindset or something. So
Like looking at their code, it looks like they are also doing the same thing over here, which like at Delhi team was doing. They were doing it until length and as well, and they are trying to. Okay, here they are doing G minus I, which definitely doesn't work because G is until 1 in 9. But their piece of code is correct over here. Like it's pretty much the same thing which IIT, like IIT Delhi Easy Treated has done so far. Like figured out these details. Like at this point of time, like if they do it this part using matrix multiplication, they would have they can call it off today. Like everything else looks fine to me. So like it's IT Rookie's team, the runtime error they have got is because G is until one if one in like where is it? Here the G is until 1 in 9 and they are calculating it up till N only. So IIT Roorkee is closed. Is it rated is closed on it and they might get an AC on it. Like Malana team looks like just got an AC on. Okay, the Malana team had already solved it. That's why they are 32. We were supposed to look at mod messages solution for the Malana team, right? Like I believe the scoreboard has already frozen. Okay, Udit will leave us as well. The three must be clears. Like Malana team got a TLE on mod multiplication. Okay, they are doing pretty much the same. Like they have figured out all the details, but their code is too slow because they are trying to do it everything online instead of offline, I believe. Yes, they are doing everything online, and it will add a log and factor extra over here, and which is not enough. I believe their complexity is ordered log cube over here, which is definitely not enough. And none of us have coded HLD, so we don't really know HLD would pass within time or not. So like doing a binary search to find the next value where it's less than our current value, and first trying to solve it going on up the path, then trying to solve it going on down the path. The idea is fine, just that it's too slow. And like they did got a TLE on the very first submission. And after that, we were supposed to look at Malana team submission for protected parentheses. The scoreboard is already frozen, so like we will stop the stream after looking at Malana team's submission. Or like there are way too many submissions. I'm not sure if I would be able. Like this was the very recent wrong answer Malana team got. Okay, like Malana team is very close to solving this one. All they need is to reverse the string, replace x by opening bracket by closing bracket, and run the same algorithm again. So like they are halfway to it, and they would be able to get an AC on this one before the end of this contest. So Malana team. So if you ask me, I would expect Faceless Man to get an AC on mod messages. Along with that, I would expect Is It Rated and IIT Roorkee to get an AC on A. And Malana team to get an AC on protected parentheses. But not really sure like if they would be able to get an AC on mod messages. They are doing it online and they will have to completely rewrite their code to get an AC. And I believe they can do it if they have enough time and if they try to, instead of optimizing their current approach, write it from a bit of scratch. So like since the scoreboard has already frozen, we will close the stream now. Thanks everyone for joining. Like, will there be a stream for other reasons? I hope if there are enough people, we would do it. And like, if they are just me and Webo, I don't really know. So like, thanks everyone for joining.